She's in Wellington, and so I'm chairing it. And I'd really like to welcome the people. Are there any other apologies? Nope. Andrew. Andrew's here.
He's on his way.
He might be just for lateness, and Ali's got to step out to make some submissions sometime during the morning, 10 to 10-ish. Right. So I just remind you that you're being live streamed. I'm not sure if your microphones work, do they? Oh, yep. Microphones work, folks.
I understand you're live. While you press the button?
You are live all the time. It's a recipe for really good behaviour. Okay, no declarations of interest recorded.
Sorry, Chair. I'm 34 item.
Yeah. Thank you.
Note.
Thank you for the record.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about the status of the microphones? Are they still on all the time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Not that I've got anything to hide.
But if you have, you might not want to mention it. Supplementary reports. So can I resolve to include the supplementary reports in the meeting? One open supplementary, and it's on the resolution is on page 4 of the supplementary agenda. Moved and seconded Jimmy. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Public participation, and we actually have two submissions, both of whom have been granted 10 minutes each, which is unusual in this forum because it's usually 5 minutes, because usually the longer ones go to the committees. But first I've got the Brainwave Trust. Andrea? Welcome. So if you come and speak here and make sure the microphones are on there with whoever.
Am I okay to sit? That's all right.
You can sit wherever you like of those seats.
Marvellous. Everybody can hear me?
We can hear you, and just so you're aware of the how it works, so you've got 10 minutes. Because this doesn't normally include questions, if there are any questions that people have, they will be included in that 10 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
So we've broken all the rules on this one so far, so go for it. Go for it.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi mahana ki a koutou, ko tō mai tēnei ata. Warmest greetings to you. My name is Andrea Dahl. I am representing Brainwave Trust today, but at the end of last year, the Mayor very graciously came and spoke at a relaunch function for Brainwave Trust here in Christchurch. And I put it out there at that particular relaunch that I wanted to be able to deliver these presentations to vulnerable families across Christchurch, and it appears that we may have the funding to do that. So the purpose of me being here today is to find out from you which communities you think those presentations should be delivered to, and also to ask you for your support and potentially your advice on how we go about doing that. So in order to do that, I want to explain to you what Brainwave Trust is and what they do. How many of you are familiar with Brainwave Trust? Oh, good. Excellent. I asked some people coming in earlier and I found that very few were. For those of you who aren't familiar, in 1998, Dr. Ian Hassel, Leslie Max, who was an advocate, Ian Hassel was the Children's Commissioner, Leslie Max was an advocate for children and parenting, Judy Bailey, who is obviously the mother of our nation, and a woman by the name of Robin Fancourt, who was a paediatrician from Taranaki, came across some information and they decided that every single person in New Zealand needed to know this information. So that's how Brainwave Trust formed. We're an organisation who deliver education and information to people around not only the early years, so you've got a little bit of information in front of you about the early years and how important those are, but also about adolescent brain development. So for those of you who are managing adolescents or have managed or are thinking about that stage, we can help you with that. So that's kind of what we do. Okay. Now, how many of you, I'm not a brain scientist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm actually a police officer. That's what I do during the day. But when I came across this information, I decided that everybody I work with needs to know this. It's essential that they understand how brains work. So I went and I studied so that I could actually deliver this information. So are you familiar with your own brains? Do you know how they work and where all the bits are? And okay. So the bottom left picture on the screen up there shows the human brain. The one above it is actually the one I'm going to talk to, and it's a model that we use called the triune model that explains brain development. The brain grows from the bottom up and from the back forward. So when you're born, your brain stem is completely online. So you can breathe, your heart beats, your blood pressure works, all of those things that actually make us be able to survive work. Okay, but as we grow and as we develop, the cerebellum's the other little piece out the back there, that's to do with motor skills and also fine-tuning of some of the movements that we have. Our limbic system is the next piece. So if we look at the model at the top left, the brain stem, that's the bottom piece. If you think about a crocodile can lie on the bank, it can eat, it can drink, it can sleep, and it can create more crocodiles. Yep, that's basically what it does. All right, that's the brain stem, that's the function of the brain stem. If you move up to the limbic system is your emotion. So that's the emotional, your dog, that's a mammal. So if you add a brain stem and a limbic system, you get a mammal. So when your dog is so excited to see you when you come home at night, it's so excited, it's because it thought you died. Oh, they're back again and I love them so much. Okay, and then the next day, same thing. Because the dog doesn't have the next bit. The next bit's what humans have. We have a cortex. So brainstem at the back, limbic system in the middle, cortex over the top, okay? And more specifically, the prefrontal cortex, the last piece to develop, this piece at the front here. Okay, that's the bit that does all of the decision-making, rationalisation, sequential thinking, all of those things, that's all prefrontal cortex. That's what makes humans. That's why we're so special, okay? That also gives us not only the ability to do lots, but also the vulnerability to be affected by much. So if you have a look at the baby, the picture of the baby on the right-hand side, we are born with genetic potential, DNA, okay? If you think about Mahi Drysdale and his wife Juliet, both strapping, tall, athletic rowers. They had a baby called Bronte a wee while ago. That baby has the genetic potential to be an amazing athlete, yes? If that child, Bronte, spends her life sitting on the couch, playing with her iPhone and doesn't move, she will not realise that genetic potential. So we're actually a combination of not only what we were born with, so this nature-nurture argument, but also what happens to us as we're growing up. That's the key part of the brainwave presentation. Okay, and this is why we've got this information. So up until 1990, we had no idea how the brain worked inside, other than through autopsies and ghastly experiments with people who'd been maimed by accidents. So what happened was we could look inside. You're born with 86 million brain cells, roughly. It's how they connect up. That's the important part. So the top right is actually a new thing called brainbow. Now brainbow can give up to 100 different brain cells a different colour, and they can track and see what they're doing. This is the explosion of knowledge that's given us the information that we present to you. And everything that Brainwave presents to you is totally scientifically grounded and researched and peer-reviewed. So we won't tell you anything that we've just decided is a really cool idea. Everything we give you is really solid. Right. A baby, when they're born, their brain is about 300 to 400 grams. It would fit in my hand. It's similar to a water bomb in consistency. That's why we have to be so careful with babies' brains. An adult brain is about 1,400 grams. How big do you think a 3-year-old's brain is? Just give me a guess.
800?
100?
800?
800? It's actually 1,000. Oh, sorry, not 3-year-olds, a 1-year-old. It's 1,000. How big do you think a 3-year-old's is? Somewhere in the middle? Let me show you. So it's actually not that much smaller than an adult brain, is it? If you have a look at the person beside you, have a look at the side of their head,
Surrounded by children.
and think of that on a 3-year-old's body. See why they fall over all the time? Okay, so when you look at 300 grams to 1,200 grams in 3 years, and particularly 300 to 1,000 in the first year, what it is that these 86 million brain cells, or billion brain cells, are talking and making connections. So it's this ridiculous amount of dendritic growth between the cells making connections. Now, as babies and as children, the way that works is we take everything in through our senses. So when we're hugged and cuddled and loved, we feel good, we grow healthy brains. Okay, it actually releases something inside us called oxytocin, which helps us grow healthy brains. So those connections that we make are good connections. We're connected up to feeling supported and loved and cared for. Okay, if we are in an environment that's frightening, where everything that happens around us is scary, we grow a brain that's concerned, and that actually goes back to that survival stuff. We don't have the ability to grow a brain that's thinking about the world, thinking about how we can create things, how we can make things. You know, children's play, it's really funny. We give them all of these different documents and things and these iPads to play with, and we give them created, already fixed toys. The reality is dirt is one of the best things you can give a kid. It's got texture, you can play with it, you can taste it. You know, all of those. That's actually how your brain grows. Your brain grows through experiences via your senses. This is really important. And when we look at how much our brain grows in those first 3 years, we need to ensure that the experiences that they have that develop that brain are the best ones they can. I need a video. I've actually need some assistance with this video. This is why I started doing this.
How long does it go on for?
It's only 3 minutes.
Because you're already within 2 minutes of your closing time. I know.
Cripes, this is so
it's because you
hard,
get
isn't it?
so excited.
I know.
It's lovely. Okay,
Okay, let me talk you through this.
Well, no, we'll let you do it. We'll let you do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
But she's got such a great brain.
Hate school. I'm dumb. I don't want to go home tonight. I'm in trouble. Yesterday I ran and hid. I stayed really still. Kids and teachers were all looking for me. When they found me, the teacher had a rage at me. She's always angry. Principal were mental too. Put it in your hand. Come on. Through the window I saw Dad's car drive into the school. I took off. I waited till it got dark because I thought Dad would be out, and then I walked home. No one was home. I left the back door open. I ate some baked beans, left some blankets and pillows under the house, then waited in the kitchen for him. Then I heard his car drive in. He drove angry. Then I heard him open the door, like, angry. Where are you, ugly little mongrel? I ran out the back door and hid under the house. He can't fit under there, but he stuck his angry face at the opening and said, "You made me look like a bloody idiot. What are you, stupid?" You're like a dog hiding under the house. You'll have to come out sometime. You'll get hungry. He laughed, so I knew it was really bad. This morning when I went in to get my bag, he was asleep on the couch, snoring. Mum's gone at the moment, but she usually comes back. Mum tries to stick up for me. When they fight, I run and hide with the knives. I'm scared that she'll come home today and he'll still be angry. I heard sirens. I thought it was Mum in an ambulance. It's my fault Mum left. I'm always getting in trouble. I wish I could be smarter and make Mum and Dad happy.
It's never easy to watch that DVD. And I think for me as a police officer, that's the stuff that I deal with. Those are the brains that I've got to deal with. Those are the brains in front of me with the children that we deal with. And then when we add to that the earthquakes, what actually happens with stress, this brain's response to stress, is that we release a substance called cortisol, and we do that fight or flight stuff. Well, during the earthquakes, we had periods of time where we didn't know when the next one was. We're in a constant state of alert. That's actually toxic to our brains. And the thing that makes stress tolerable is the controllability of it. Could we control the earthquakes? No. The predictability, could we predict them? No. And the support from others to manage those feelings. Well, the reality was that most children during those earthquakes didn't have very much adult support to manage their feelings because we were all managing our own. We were all dealing with ourselves and a whole pile of other stuff as well. So we actually have a generation of children who are coming through who have struggled, who have had lots of stress in their lives. And if you look up here, our brains have this thing called plasticity. We grow brains to deal with the world we find ourselves in. And so what I want you to think about as adults is we need to look after the children. These children who are stressed, these children who are reacting badly, who don't have those coping mechanisms, we have access to our prefrontal cortex. We can calm ourselves down. We can manage that in an adult, sensible way. Why overreact to these children? This is the stuff I need to get out there. This is the stuff I want to share with all of my colleagues, with everybody who works with children, and I want to help those who are actually in our communities to understand this information. We don't only do early years, we also do adolescent years. So I've given you some information, I've given you my card. If there's anything at all that you think you could give me some advice or some help or some assistance as to how I might do this, we're about to plan a project, please help. 10 minutes?
Yeah, close. Thank you, Andrea. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Just because you're being live streamed and people can access this at any time, you want to just tell anyone who's listening or watching how they actually get in touch with you? Because they haven't got your card.
The easiest way for them is actually through the Brainwave website. Brainwave have a Facebook page and they have a website. If you just Google Brainwave, you'll find them.
Right.
There's plenty of information actually on the website and also on the Facebook page. It's very, very thorough.
And those presentations are available to any community that feels like they want them?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. We're really happy to deliver them.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Thank you very much indeed. And Matt? So the 10 minutes is sort of flexible to 12, but there are only 3 seats, so it's probably just easier if we understand that there are a lot of people. If you all want to stand, you're very welcome to do whatever you like, but you may find it more comfortable
For
sitting.
time, they might all stand behind me and then just go one after the other. That's all right.
Oh, are they all speaking?
Yeah.
Oh,
all
right,
speaking.
okay.
So,
right.
Namihiki Koto, call Matt Waters, aho. Thanks for listening to us. This is the presentation from the Community Information Hub pilot project. What we know is that pre-existing community connectors and community infrastructure support resilience, make resilient communities. The Information Hub project has been running for about 18 months so far. I've been asked to run the project by the Ananui Community Trust. This is Rachel, my manager, beside me. She'll be speaking a bit later. One of the things that, the 4 things that we really wanted to do over the second part of the project was increase knowledge and connection with and between members of the neighbourhoods that the information hubs are in, improve understanding by neighbourhood and community members of the strengths and assets as well as the vulnerabilities within the neighbourhood, increase awareness by community neighbourhood members about how to access the services they needed, and support communication specific to neighbourhoods. We've had 12 organisations involved. They've each had the opportunity to apply for 2 grants. One was a neighbourhood planning grant and one was a newsletter grant. Some apply for both, some apply for one. The people that are here behind are going to talk a minute each about what they've been doing with each of those grants and how we've been working together. The information in your packs will supplement what they're going to speak about, and we're going to try and stay in time. So, Littleton Information Centre, Project Littleton.
Hello there. I'm just going to talk about the project we had, and it actually began with yourselves, with the LTCCP, articulating that you wanted to form a community partnership with the Littleton Time Bank. So we used our neighbourhood planning grant through this project to get that process happening. So it all started by a series of conversations, both with council staff and with our community. And one of the first outcomes of this project is up on the slide up there, and you'll see, you might know Joan Blatchford on the left, who's the community governance team leader at Littleton Mount Herbert community area. They have joined the Time Bank. So together, the Time Bank are exploring ways with Joan and her team and others as to how the Time Bank and the council can work together. The second part of that project, we identified, the community and Joan and a group of people, that the swimming pool was something that we should focus on. You created a brand new pool. Our community wanted to use it more. So with this project, we identified that we could have Time Bank lifeguards. So the council has earned time credits for training 8 members of our community to be lifeguards. And that, now, they're all trained, and as of this Saturday, the pool's going to be open for an extra 2 hours a day by the Time Bank lifeguards. So it's been a great project, thank you.
Kia ora tātou, I'm Robin Arnold and I'm here to speak for the Sumner Bays Union Trust. Part of the money was put towards a community directory for Redcliffs. It's really important at the moment for us to reconnect with the services that are actually available currently, as things have changed a lot over the last 5 years. Also speaking on behalf of the Bridge to Rocks Time Bank. The timing of this funding was immaculate with the 10-year anniversary of Littleton's Time Bank, the founder of Time Banking coming and speaking, Edgar Khan. The Bridge to Rocks Time Bank is in startup phase and the funding went towards branding and marketing. When you receive funding, it sets a journey, and that journey for us was really about getting clear about who we are, what we look like, who our community is. The exciting part of that was the engagement and the ownership that our community is taking with that increased professionalism. Thank you.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Linda Rutland. I'm from Mount Pleasant Community. We didn't really have time to work on this, but we grabbed the money because it was there. But anyway, and we had a community meeting with our street coordinators. We've got a network of street coordinators, and out of that meeting came an action which was devise a community directory, which I thought was dead boring. But anyway, because I thought everything's on web, so why do we need a paper directory? But anyway, I did it. As soon as it went out, I got all this feedback coming back saying, why don't you put this in, why don't you put that in? And everyone sort of took ownership of it. So I can see now it's going to be a great tool that we can do annually. And we can even do things like publish our own community plan in it and show the community what we intend to do for the next year. And it's just, I think it's a great organising tool. The other thing I just want to say is this project in itself is fantastic. We're working right across the east, and I have to say that we were probably the most affected communities, and it's been awesome to be working together from rich or poor suburbs, and I just really want to commend the Aranui Community Trust for bringing us all together. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Erica from the Sumner Residents Association. This project has been unique and has afforded us the opportunity to work with amazing humans. In the way of community development, we've used the funding for a newsletter and 2 brochures, and that's really made a difference. We've had an exciting events held during the neighbourhood week, and we had 2 events and barbecues. This enabled us to connect with local residents in summer. What do they want? What do they see for the future of the association, and how would they like to see their suburb in the future? So thank you to Aranui for affording us the opportunity.
Hi there, Jane from South Brighton. We also put together a community directory. The main thrust of what we did, however, was to get out into our neighbourhoods. We're a reasonably new group, so we ran a series of neighbourhood barbecues that people in our neighbourhoods actually hosted themselves, invited their neighbours. Had 3 main purposes. We got lots more information about who we are and what we do, and also resources for our community out there. We got to identify some of the more isolated, maybe elderly people in our community that we can then focus our attentions on. And the third thing was we got some key people who put their hands up to host those barbecues, who are now becoming key people in our community. In terms of working with this group, it was fabulous. What I love is that we had really shared aims and purposes, but in terms of implementation and delivery, different ways of doing it, and we actually know as the people in our communities the best way to deliver. Challenge to traditional funding ways of doing things, I really like it. The second thing is we now have a collective voice. We're all here talking to you. We have a strength that comes with that. And we're hearing a lot about participatory governance and all these kind of words coming around. Well, this is some of the strength that we can build in terms of the community voice side of that equation, so I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Kia ora everyone. I'm Sylvia from Renew Brighton. As you know, New Brighton's a super engaged neighbourhood with heaps and heaps of things going on. We actually identified 170 community groups in New Brighton, so it's pretty pumping. And to keep all of that information in one place and to let the residents know what's going on, we've started a website. So it's called New Brighton Online, and if you search that, you'll find it. This is the illustration from the website, so we had a designer create this. The website's as much about sharing information as it is changing the perception of New Brighton as a really diverse and exciting neighbourhood. So that's what that illustration was about. Yeah, so that was what this money contributed towards, as well as creating an awesome group of friends, really, and people supporting each other to do our work. So, thank you.
Good morning, Linda Burdekin from South Shore Residents Association. Our funding, we were looking at what we needed, and basically we have nowhere where people can meet. We needed somewhere to set up our tent and talk to our community. So we used our funding to buy a tent, or more to the point, a couple of gazebos, chairs, tables, everything that we could set up to make a mobile meeting place anywhere along our streets, locality, onto the estuary, onto the beach. And it's all mobile. We run power cable, leads into people's houses, or if necessary we have a generator. So there's also has a dual purpose in that we can run a TV, computers, we can charge up batteries if we have any kind of emergency. So we have somewhere we can get out to people, and it works really well. We've had a range of things from perhaps 20, 30 people up to just before Christmas. We had 90 people gathering where we just set up our tent and our signs. So that's been fantastic. It's all mobile, all fit in the back of a station wagon, and it's something that can be borrowed by the others in our group, and that's just been fantastic that we've got that support, and we now know so many other groups doing really interesting things, and we can share that information and get out to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paddy and I come from Parklands, and our project you've got in front of you in the folder, the background to it originally was to have a look at our own suburb where we feel that the whole demographic has changed. We're becoming slowly but surely a suburb of home renters and not homeowners, and there was all the houses have been filled, but a lot of people coming into our community who didn't identify with Parklands as a community. They identified with where they'd come from, and we felt they were just coming home to watch TV, sleep and eat and head off to work somewhere else. So the idea of the community directory really was to try and get an opportunity to engage with these people, and so we did it in a hard copy form, and we hand delivered it to people, and when we visited, if they were home, we talked to them about Parklands, how long they'd been here, what their future was. The interesting thing about the demographic is we've just shifted because our house has been knocked down, and we're in a block of 5 beautiful homes, only one of which is owned, and the rest of us are renting. The school, the majority of new entrants in the school last year at Parklands were not first year, but advanced students, second and third year, so that's new people coming in. An interesting fact about our community, someone thought our library was a pub and had never gone in there, and we kept getting asked, do you have a supermarket? And we asked about the cover, which is quite interesting. We thought we'd put a picture of some community place. We asked the community, what would be a picture that would tell you that this is Parklands? And they said the helicopter park with kids playing on it. Well, you've never got problems finding kids playing on our helicopter park. So in answer to the end bit, I guess, we delivered it to 3,000 homes. We gave the library 100 so they could distribute to people who were perhaps coming back in to the suburb. They've now had 308. They're going out like hotcakes, and we're now starting to realise that a lot of people from outside Parklands come and shop there, which is good. Errors and omissions, we made 4, and they were minor. We've had plenty of positive feedback, and we've had 6 requests for inclusion in the next edition. And I guess it's better to do something imperfectly than to do nothing flawlessly, and we've filled an obvious need. Thank you very much.
Oh, right, okay,
So we're now 3 minutes over time, but I'm assuming that you want to say...
I'm really
something.
sorry
No,
about this, but this is showing some real good
No,
connectedness.
it's brilliant stuff. That's why I haven't interrupted
Well, funding,
anything.
but this is our video that we were able to do through some of the funded money, and it's about just showing people the key, big, massive projects that are happening in Aranui this year. So thank you for letting me show that.
obviously we're here for social housing purposes. So what we're trying to do here is replace old and for new builds. This is one of our sites that we've got going on at the moment in Aranui. As you can see, there's plenty of action. This is our first site that we're doing. The guy started here probably 4 or 5 months ago. It's a great design, so it doesn't take long once they get the groundworks done to get houses up here. So we're actually adding warm and dry homes. They'll be garaging, they're modern. I think they'll engage with the community, they'll bring the community in. The layout and the design just will embrace and encourage people to come in. So this site will be completed in March 2016. We will have tenants going in. You've got a better layout, you've got warm and dry homes. You've got a good community complex design. So, you know, it will feel like a community of good like houses together.
The biggest initiative is the development and the build of the new campus school. It's now called Hayata, so it's really nice to have a name to put to that. Because our new school will be facing the east, Hayata is the description for the early rays of the sun. So it's been consulting with the community, working with them. The school will be a year 1 to 13 campus, which will open in 2017. It'll improve the learning opportunities for the community. So I think it will offer a style of learning that the East has not seen before.
We're building back a new multi-use community centre. So from some of the tragic consequences of the earthquake, we've seen something positive come out for Aranui, and that'll be the reopening of this new facility in the middle of 2016 next year.
Sport and physical activity have a number of functions in society. They allow participation, health and fitness, pride, allows people from all backgrounds to excel. The Aranui community have got a strong history in this, and it's our job to work with the community to provide some facilities and to provide some other community infrastructure.
There'll be people having their celebrations here with whānau. There'll be local community groups coming together. It really is a multi-use facility that's taken on board all of the views of the local community. We've had a really good input from all local groups to making sure that what we're building here meets the needs of everybody, both now and into the future.
We think the Information Hub kind of process has got real legs. There's a number of recommendations that come out of it. Some of the key things are we want to continue to meet. We want to continue to formalise involvement with local government and central government and citywide social service providers with this growing Information Hub network. We want to continue to strengthen links and also an equity and equality of communication from those agencies across our Information Hub. And we want to continue to develop a systematic way that we receive and put out information to our local communities as well as we continue to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you all of you, not just for an excellent presentation, but for everything you're doing in your communities. I mean, it's an amazing array of talent that's standing before us. It's stunning. Thank you again. But just do you want to do it through the community committee so that you have lots of time for lots of questions? Because there will be, there would be 100 questions if I open.
We struggled to find a forum to be able to present properly to you.
Yeah,
and
no,
this was it. So
this was fine.
Yeah.
But then on an ongoing basis, when you want specific things, Andrew's committee?
Or, I'm assuming that you already have contacts with the community boards in your areas. You are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But just
given
if it
that this
goes
is
beyond-
over a number of areas, I think it would be great if we could get a regular dialogue with the Community Housing and Economic Development Committee. I chair that committee and certainly would welcome an initial meeting so that we can get that communication underway.
Great.
Okay. Thank you all very much for a really interesting presentation. Both of them, actually. Thanks, guys. We've got this agenda.
Oh.
I know. No petitions. Akara Wairewa. Welcome.
Thank you. It sounds as though the speaker system has been all repaired.
It is, but if you say anything as an aside, it will be picked up.
I'm sure not going to say anything aside.
Just while Pam's sitting down, I need to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting. And they were, did I do them before? No. Yeah, I think I did, actually. But anyway, they were moved by Andrew, seconded by Tim. If you haven't got them. Okay, and they were passed. Pam, did you want to tell us anything about what's going on?
Well, I certainly want to tell you a little bit about a few things. And the first thing that comes to mind is Onuku, and how proud I was to stand beside the council staff, and go through the day's activities was just a superb opportunity. It was in the new building at Onuku, which is absolutely magnificent conference centre that's going to be available for a whole lot of opportunity. Magnificent setting. Very well organised, particularly the City Council, and I have actually just brought the brochure from the citizenship ceremony here, and delighted that we had so many councillors at that day. So many thanks for coming along and sitting with us during that occasion. Our relationship with Onuku is very strong, and we continue to grow as a community with Onuku beside us. So we saw a lot of the councillors at that, but I'd just like to make sure that you come to our annual plan meetings that are coming April in Akaroa. This is the council rollout of meeting and talking about the annual plan. And for those of you that haven't been to Akaroa, I particularly ask you to come and spend some time with our community. The 22nd of April, I think it's in the morning meeting. I know it's before Anzac Day, but just heads up, we'd love to see a few more of those others of you that haven't been to our area, but the rest of you are also welcome. We also are looking at April...
Great food, Pam.
April the 1st was the reopening of the Gaiety. Now that's just in the pipeline. I'm not quite sure how far that invitation... Well, I'm sure everybody will be invited to that, but it is reopening that we've been notified as a community. And the note that came with that respected the community for the time that they waited. So I think it was much appreciated, the style of the letter that was sent from Darren Moses to us and the community in relation to the reopening. So that was much appreciated. Freedom camping continues to be an issue, a continual issue. It's growing. We solve it in one area and we push it somewhere else. And look, we do hear what our community is saying. We acknowledge the amount of work that the council are doing. We do need to find a resolution. And I believe that we actually should be going much higher, working with our zone committee, Local Government New Zealand, and even nationally looking at how we can actually resolve this issue, that it's becoming a major issue for us. So if I then just go to our minutes, and there's just one issue there that I really just wanted to pull out of that, and was on the bottom of page 17 that we've talked about the black cat and the opportunities that we have in Akaroa for wildlife tourism and opportunities. This is just still from recovering from the earthquake, from a proposal that earlier came to the table, and bringing that consent back to the table, looking at it and ensuring that the operators that are using the wharf know what is actually going to happen down the track, and that our wharf, as far as I'm aware, is a historic wharf, an old wharf that has a considerable number of repairs to be done on it. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up from the minutes.
Thank you very much indeed. So we haven't got any Part A items.
No.
So can I just get Andrew to move and maybe David to second that the minutes that we receive the minutes? Okay, no discussion? That, those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
Pam.
Thank you.
The next item is item number 7, the Littleton Mount Herbert Community Board, and there are no Part A items, so Andrew is going to move and Jamie is going to second that the council receive the minutes. Is there any discussion? If not, I'm going to, you guys are moving that you receive them from the 18th of November, the 2nd of December and the 16th of December. Okay? Put that, those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. And that takes us to item 10, Burwood Pegasus. And there is a Part A item, and Andrea is going to come and talk to us. Welcome, Andrea.
Good morning, everybody. So Part A, Lever Terrace, part of Rafferty School, which is obviously combining the old Freeville, North New Brighton and Central New Brighton, so 3 schools merging into one. I think it was well worth the foresight of getting this underway before the school year started. It sounds like the first few weeks have been quite full on. Obviously, a whole lot of new students having to travel to a new school. It's going to take a wee bit of time to settle in, but yeah, good move, I think, from...
Okay, so shall I, Dave, did you want to speak to that?
I just want to make a comment, really. I support what's happened here, but just looking at pages 72 and 73 of the report, the traffic report and 74, highlights a number of areas around the school that have issues with kids travelling to and from schools. And with a number of these new schools that are developing, we are amalgamating a number. There are other schools in the city that are relocating to different sites, and I just would like to draw perhaps to Phil's committee there will be a need to address some traffic issues around some of these new schools that actually radiate a wee bit further away from the school with kids travelling to and from. Rafidi, for example, is an amalgamation of 3 schools now.
Yep, we've just got told that.
And 600 odd kids going to be there, and traffic already is becoming quite an issue.
Yep, okay. On the subject, Yanni? Yep.
Yeah, it's a really good point that David's made, and obviously there's a huge cost associated to us with all these changes. So we're picking up the government's cost associated with the school changes. Is anyone doing any work around just trying to quantify the number of changes that we're needing to make and looking at either recuperating that money from government or actually looking at just making sure we've got appropriate budgets to address the safety concerns? Because I think fundamentally safety is really important. And
Traffic safety is our concern.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure that we've got sufficient
Yes, there will be sufficient resource for traffic safety always, especially pedestrian safety.
We've had a bit of struggle with the one up Preston's Road, the footpath. It was only because we suddenly realised the staff missed it completely. So there needs to be, I guess, each board who knows the areas and knows the schools need to make sure that staff are picking up that schools are going to be in different locations and well ahead, because this takes time to go through the process. So we very nearly got badly caught out there with having children having to walk on a 70k road to get to school. We had no footpaths for them, and it was quite a scramble.
So, Yanni, I don't want, this relates to this intersection, so I'm not going to take motions that relate to something. But if it relates to this intersection, on Lever and Grantley, I'll take anything.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a number of reports today around school safety crossings, so I can raise it through the draft annual plan if you want, or through some other process. But yeah, I think it's an important one that we need to just get on top of.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so I'll put this, it's moved by Glenn and seconded by Dave. Put that, no discussion. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. And then we've got your items 11, 12 and 13. You want to add anything?
Yeah, no, they're
all good. Moved Dave, seconded Glenn. Put those are just the minutes. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you very much indeed, Andrea.
Thank you.
Val, you've got another school speed zone. School that hasn't merged. Val, Pendleton Wainari Community Board.
Yes, the school zone is quite straightforward. The staff are very happy with our alteration of 20 metres, so there's no problems with it.
So shall I put that one first, Val? Shall I put that one first?
Yes.
Okay. So we're on item 14. It's a Part A item. It's moved Jamie, seconded Raf. Those in favour?
Aye.
Discussion? Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you. And then, Val, anything on...
There's another Part A, the transfer of funds from strengthening
Sure.
communities to discretionary response fund.
Yes, and actually, when we come to the funding review later on, we're actually going to suggest that this just go to community boards and be delegated to you, because it's bizarre that it has to come back to council. So I can't imagine that there'd be any problem with this. Moved, Raf, seconded Jamie. Put that, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thanks. Item 16 and 17. They okay?
Yes, there's really nothing in the minutes. They're all quite straightforward.
Thanks. Moved Jamie, seconded Ref. I'll put both items 16 and 17. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thanks. You guys are all happy with your recommendation? Right. Fine. So moved Paul, seconded Yanni.
Yep.
Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thanks, Sarah.
Second part A is an easement for Orion and Scotts Valley Reserve. It's a very, very small land area, but quite long because it's a fence, and it needs to happen.
Right. So moved Yanni, seconded Paul. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thank you. And anything else in your reports? 20, 21, 22?
Actually, I won't today, but
sorry, yeah.
But no, I don't know if the councillors have got anything they want to raise from it.
Okay, we have Yanni.
Yeah, there's just one issue on, you'll see on page 20, Otley Street. So.
Which page, sorry, Yanni?
It's not the page number.
Oh, sorry, page 180.
Thank you.
So this is a emerging issue around the residence parking scheme. So particularly with some of the changes that are happening in the central city and the intensification, and now the new requirements in the district plan that people don't have to provide car parking. So it would be really good. I don't know if we need a formal resolution because I guess it's a little bit confusing from the reports, but it's a part C, but possibly it should be a part A because it's asking council to do a review of a policy.
No.
It's a policy. We're asking for a review of the
We're happy
policy.
to do it as a community board. That's fine, but
No,
we could make those decisions for the central city. That would be awesome.
It's a very
urgently,
fair point,
because you look at some of the changes around the South Frame as well, and having a policy that creates an expectation when we've got limited resource and a whole bunch of changes happening on street parking.
Okay, so I'm going to take these separately if I may, because Yanni's quite right. So I'll put part C for Otley Street as part of the minutes. And then what I'd suggest that we do is that we ask council staff to report to who deals with Central City parking as a committee.
It's not just Central City because we have a whole range of issues where with the cycleways and parking as well. So
it's ITI? Yep. Okay, so can I suggest that we ask council staff to report to the ITE committee on a residence parking scheme, including the wording of the resolution. Is that okay?
That'd be great.
So,
Yeah,
Will they report back to council?
oh yeah, ITE has to report back to
It
council.
should be to a joint committee between the two, the board and the committee.
That's fair. You'd be happy with that, wouldn't you, Phil?
Welcome to come along.
Yeah. So, and the item number 23, page 203.
Thank you. Gives me great pleasure to present our community board reports and draw your attention to part A on page 203 and 204.
And so, Mike, for part A on page 203 and 204, you want to have moved the entire motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say on that issue? No,
No, I think it's all there.
Okay,
All we're
thank you,
asking
Ray.
for is support.
And the board was unanimous on this, wasn't it?
We were.
Yeah, Jimmy, would you like to move that?
Yeah, no. I would like to ask questions first. Two questions. Last time the committee meeting on 2nd of February, particular committee board recommend when the staff opened this redacted concept design document to the public, then committee board and the staff to try to collect the feedback from the community or individuals. I just want to ask, up to now, whether committee board, you or some other board member have received those feedback or not yet?
I haven't received any additional feedback yet, but the process will allow for us to receive more
more feedback, and hopefully this will go to the shed committee, which will work with the community board before any final resolutions on the design and construction are made. So there will be opportunities, Councillor Chen, to receive feedback through this process.
This is concept design only. At this stage.
Secondly, is based on community board recommendation, these three the bullet point, but during the deputation period, the one is the chair of Dean's F Precinct Society, the other secretary of the Central Region Resident Association. They particularly mention, although the Victim Volunteer Library, they cannot afford to provide the services, volunteer service in the Central Region area. However, these the two, the committee leader particularly mentioned, before the community board or the council have this kind of decision made, need to consult with the community. I'm not sure whether community board or council have consulted with them, whether this library service will be continued in that area due to their particular concern. That area is a high density population area. That's the question. I just want to, whether have you consulted with community?
Thank you, Jimmy. That was done. The consultation was done, and the statistics, if you go to page 231 of the report, attachment B, out of the 141 people who made submissions and commented, 17 only commented on libraries, and that was more to do with the volunteer library who, at the meeting on the 2nd of February, we received information that the Riccarton Volunteer Library was not going to continue in the new facility.
And that was their choice.
They are not mentioned.
Jimmy,
But I just want to clarify. Yeah, this question, your sub-question.
Last question.
Yeah. Just want to clarify, because their particular concern is a library service rather than the volunteer library service. Need to consult with them.
There wasn't any feedback that's identified specifically in the very, very good consultation process that has taken place up until now for a full-time City Council library in the Riccarton area at this stage, Councillor Chen.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, that's 3 questions now. Have you got any more questions? Because there's not an issue.
Because I just want to move, just one paragraph on the motion, in the motion. I send it to the staff already.
Just read it to me and I'll tell you whether it's...
Okay, yes. That the staff consult with the community regarding whether the library service will be continued in the Central Region area after the closure of the volunteer library. That's in response to the community deputation.
Jimmy, there's a volunteer library service. They are not run by the City Council. So if the volunteer library service choose to stay or go, that is completely their call. There is no plan in the budget now or next year or the year after for a library service funded by the council in Central Riccarton, probably because there's one in Upper Riccarton, Fendleton, Central City, and a new one planned for Hornby. So I think this is completely outside of the remit of this proposal. This proposal was for a community centre, and the volunteer library have themselves decided that they don't want to go into this new community centre. So,
but
Jimmy,
I mean this one just in response to the community deputation in the community
It may look innocuous.
It's not has to be. I just want to, response to the community. They have a deputation.
Can I just get from Ian, is this in any way, the staff consult on with the community regarding if the library service will be, which library service? The volunteer library service?
They just mentioned the library service. They didn't mention
Jimmy,
that.
is it the volunteer library service?
They didn't identify clearly.
So
maybe
what
the
are
same
you
scale,
saying?
maybe the
Jimmy,
council
what
community.
Are you saying?
Yes.
What are you saying? The staff consult with the community regarding if the library service, do you mean the volunteer library service?
I don't think so. It's the volunteer library. Maybe
Okay.
small scale, same size with the current volunteer library site. Because while if a closure of the volunteer library, 6,000 volume, the books, where to go?
Okay,
If they donate to council,
so Jimmy,
where is the
the
place?
volunteer library service has been operating in Riccarton since 1928. It's completely their choice if they choose to continue. If they choose to continue, then I'm sure that they would have come along to the community board, and you were there, to say, we want to continue.
Correct.
They call that they do not want to. There is no way that the City Council, as a City Council, would provide a one-room library service, ever. That's not what our libraries are. They're places of community gathering, data, computers, all sorts of things. You cannot do that in one room. So can I just suggest that your motion, your proposed amendment is out of order, but I just want to check that with Ian. Right, okay, so I'm not going to accept your 4, and your amendment in relation to 1, 2 and 3 is actually the
Exactly the
motion.
same as,
It's actually the motion,
Only to
which
vote,
is,
yes.
was unanimous at the Riccarton
Yes, it
Wickham
was.
Community Board. Thank you.
No, that answers my point.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, if I could just make a suggestion. I mean, the whole nature of volunteer library is that it requires volunteers in order for it to run. If the community board had a mind to try to keep the Riccarton Volunteer Library going by working with the community to find more volunteers to essentially take that over, or in fact, if the Riccarton Community Association had a mind to try and find or provide volunteers to keep that volunteer library going, I could see that being the way in which that would be able to continue. But if we were going to open a conversation about providing a library service in the true sense, in the council library sense for Riccarton, the right place for that conversation would be as part of the annual plan.
Absolutely.
Because it would need to be scoped, it would need to be budgeted, and it would need to be considered alongside everything else we're planning to do in the library space. So I'm keen to see the voluntary library continue if there's a desire in the community for that to happen, but it does require community volunteers to step up to do that. And I just wanted to make that point.
And they can do that at any stage.
And the concept design, the original concept design did allow for space for the volunteer library should they wish to move there. They have since decided that they don't wish to move there at this point in time. But that opportunity was and still is available, that there would be space in that area for, not solely for the whole time for the volunteer library, but when they could move their bookshelves away into another room and then use that space for other community uses at other times when the volunteer library wasn't open. So that has already been considered with this original concept design before we made the amendments.
Thank you.
to it.
So, Mike, this is the recommendation from the community board. It was a unanimous decision, recommendation. Jimmy, do you want to move it?
I don't want to move.
Okay, I'll
but
move
I'm-
it, and Ralph will second it. Yep, Yanni?
Yeah, I just wanted, if we could, I mean, the point that Andrew made before, or Councillor Turner made, I agree with that. The provision of library service is really a matter for the activity management plan through the long-term plan or through the annual plan process. So just, I think maybe possibly a solution is just to have a note that any submitter that's concerned about the loss of library services, the appropriate process for them to make submissions is into that process.
Into the annual plan.
Into the annual plan.
Since it was mentioned by one submitter, I'm sure that Mike could pass that on to them.
Okay.
Yes,
And then the other thing, I just wanted to just check. I'm still just trying to understand the rationale for the Robbie site being with it. So you've got an existing but successful business that's working well, and we're going to knock that over, build a new facility, and we're going to sell off the land where the current facility is. Why wouldn't you do it the other way around? Why wouldn't you sell off the place where the business is, so that if possibly that business wanted to...
For example, Robbie's Bar.
Yeah, and build the community centre on where the current community centre is, so you actually get a win-win rather than getting rid of a local business.
The local business's lease is, I think, expired. So, and it has
And the
been...
council's made that decision.
Yes.
The council's made this decision. What we're now discussing is the concept design, basically where it goes. and basically the size and those sorts of things. You'll notice also that the community centre asked could be built so that a second story could go on if there was a lot of need. This is not the detailed design drawings. This is a concept design. Finally, a new community centre in Riccarton, which I actually think is a cause of celebration. And you'll see extensive consultation was done with the community, even standing in Riccarton Mall asking people what they wanted. And it's an interesting community, very high rental population around there, very high young population around there. And a lot of what they wanted was things like computer gaming, which are quite different than perhaps we might have
It's quite hard to read the consultation.
Well, it's incredibly extensive. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, but that decision around the land has already been made?
Yes, as I understand it, some time ago, yeah. So can I put this...
just add that post-earthquake, there was a lot of consultation on whether the existing community centre should be or could be rebuilt, and then what people would like in a new community centre, should one be built, and location. So that took place with a special consultative process post-earthquake, and then we've moved on from there with the preferred location, which is the Robbie site, and we're just taking it from there.
Okay, so I'm moving and Raf was seconding these recommendations. I'll put those in favour.
I would like to debate.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very, very disappointed for the process of decision made regarding to the concept design document, because in the early stage, in the beginning, the community board and the community request the staff consider based on all the nature, the experience, easy to separate the concept design document in a public realm, and also the commercial sensitive document in the PX realm. However, the staff didn't listen to the community and the community board, probably at least 2 times.
Actually,
and also, because I'm debate, please.
But
yeah.
you're
and
making
also
accusations that are not correct.
And also, based on the email, my understanding, management level, at the end of November last year, sent to the secretary of Central Riccarton Resident Association, and also CC to community board and local councillor, 2 bullet points I would like to emphasize. Particular mention, moving forward, part of decision-making process will be involved in the community board, particularly at the concept design stage. And this will allow for further input, however, didn't make the practice. Second is it means a secretary of resident association, specific point will be carried into the concept design. But you are aware, this document is in the PX, how the community, they are aware this document, the contents. And also, then on the 2nd of February, the community board meeting, all the board members with the chairperson here asked, clearly we listen to the chair of Dean's F, Prison Association, the other secretary of the Central Riccarton Resident Association, on behalf of their community association, particular highlight, after the closure of the Riccarton, the volunteer library, whether in this area need have a kind of the library service, need to consult with the community first, rather than just make a decision directly. So I add on the bullet point here, actually is a proper response to the community. Why cannot put in here? This is my particular concern. Maybe not has to be, to continue the library service in the Central Riccarton area. However, we need to take into account, we need to hear the voices from the community. That's all the attitude. So, and also, if you review the page 206, you can see actually the service center, in the half a year, they have 6,839 transactions. If we compare with some other the service center, maybe you can see the figure, Findleton, Papaloo, even more than those the service center. So there's high demand in that area. So I'm disappointed, this one, but I still accept the community board's recommendation. Disappointed because my recommendation, one paragraph, not put in there. Yes.
Okay, just so we're clear, the Riccarton Community Board is suggesting that the service centre remain in the Riccarton commercial area, having looked at those figures at its last meeting.
Correct.
At the last meeting, the stuff that was in PX was made public, and those groups who wanted to address the Riccarton Community Board addressed the Riccarton Community Board. As a result, this is all coming in public with some slightly different decisions than, slightly different recommendations than what might have been there before.
Correct.
Also, the volunteer library fronted up to the community board and spoke to the community board and said they did not want to continue past the change. Their call entirely. So I think actually the exciting thing is that we now have a concept design for a new Riccarton Community Centre. The community centre that's been there has been closed for, 5 years, Mark?
Yes, it has.
It's got a tiny bit at the front, which is usable, and the entire back of it is completely unusable and at about 15% or something, 15% of building code, not usable. This is a modern, usable, very flexible, 549 square metres from memory, space that is there for the community of Riccarton, which will be staffed and which will have potentially a service centre in it, depending on where is the best place for the service centre. So I think actually a brilliant outcome, but what I'd like to do now is put the motion, which I've moved and Raph has seconded, put that, those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thank you. And the next one is the 24 and 25. Anything you want to add to those, Mike? They're just minutes.
Just minutes.
Yep.
Everything's there, unless there's any questions.
Okay.
I'm happy to move these two.
You're happy to move those? Okay, Jimmy moves. Andrew seconds. Put those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks very much indeed, Mike.
And the PX ones will be taken in PX later in the meeting, but they're just as a matter of course
They've all
anyway. So.
been dealt with anyway.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mike. Okay, Shirley Papanui and Mike Davis. Oh.
Mike's an apology this morning.
Yep,
and,
okay, so Mike's not here. So
Ellie and I
Pauline's
can
going to
cover
take
it.
us through it, or Ali, whoever. And we've got staff here on item 28. So item 26.
Pauline's headlining, I'll support it. Yeah, but which is which?
No, I can tell the difference.
So this is my notice of motion, which I've put forth and was supported unanimously at the community board. Thank you, colleagues. And it's mainly to formalise mitigating the loss of any trees that council needs to remove for any reason in the city. And with the permission of my seconder, Mike Davidson, he's agreed that I can just add one more word in there, as was pointed out by Yanni this morning, to replace any council tree that's removed. So if we could amend that, would be
Any council-owned tree,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And I think you were also going to seek to amend it slightly so that the Christchurch City Council, so that a report on the process and implications.
Yeah, to our staff to
go
report
to,
back on the process and implications to go to Ishi.
Yeah, so I think the recommendation should, from this, and that a report on the process and implications of this go to the ITE committee. On any process and other implications. Go to the ITE committee. On a policy. Yeah, sorry, it doesn't quite follow, does it? On a policy that would require.
My only concern with this is time frame now, because the reason I know I've done this is I thought this may have been included in a tree policy, but I've had an email this morning saying that it's not so far. Okay. So I don't want this to be hooked up with the developing tree policy. So when
so
would
you'll
we
do it separate from the tree policy?
Yeah, when would we expect a report by? What's a feasible time? Say No, on the recommendation. It's just the implications and...
It's just the implications of, it's actually practice at the moment, but it's not a policy.
In 1 or 2 months?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just what, May, April?
May.
Going on.
It may be April,
If we
but
could
it's
put
more
a-
likely to be May.
If we could put a time frame in there, say by
By
May,
May.
that would be...
Okay.
Well, actually, by April would be good, because...
No, do it by May, Pauline, to make it
Part of my
realistic.
concern
Your
is...
workload's with council staff, so I think it...
Hang on a minute, Pauline's got a reason for suggesting that.
I know,
point.
because she wants it to go in the annual plan process. I don't think there's actually likely to be many costs.
And also because of what's happening with the cycleways, are actually causing a lot
Yep.
of tree removal. So it is
Okay.
something I feel quite passionate about, and a timeline would be good.
But how about we compromise, Pauline? So by May at latest, but April if possible. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, it does, and they'll try to get it both. Yeah. Okay, Glenn.
Oh, thank you. If I may, just a quick comment in support. I suspect it will be 14 Love, but just what I'd like to say is that we require our residents through RMA processes actually to do this. If, you know, you might have a garage that infringes or whatever, if you're extending, you have to do that over trees. So I think it's quite fair that we live up to the same standard ourselves. So I think we've got good grounds for that report, and be all good.
Okay. Yanni.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this notice of motion, but I think there's also more work needs to be done around other trees in the public realm, like NZTA, like Kiwi Rail. So there are changes through the district plan that will remove protection and will give greater autonomy to those organisations, as I understand it. So I welcome getting this report done, but I think it actually raises a number of other questions around trees on private property and on other public-owned land
this
that's
one,
not necessarily by us.
This one's just going to deal with council.
Right.
Otherwise,
So-
it's going to be a way long time coming.
Could we get a workshop on the tree policy at some stage? Because I'm just mindful that if trees do lose their protection, we could see a huge avalanche
Different
of trees
issue,
being
but Phil, are you okay to do that at some
Yeah,
stage?
so a summary of the draft tree policy is coming to the District Plan Committee, and there's every reason to say that then that could be picked up by the ITNE Committee to do further work on Yari. It's really about clarification.
I just agree with Councillor Cotter's request for urgency, because we could potentially see in the very next few months a huge avalanche of trees coming down if we don't think about how we do this.
So we've heard that. So can I put, this is moved Councillor Cotter, seconded Councillor Jones. Yep. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. And the next one is item 27, Kensington Ave School Speed Zone. Okay, no problem?
No problem, that's the speed zone.
Yep, that's the speed zone.
Yep.
So moved Cotters, Pauline, seconded Ellie.
Yes.
Put that, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those carried. And then the reserve classification of Harewood Park, is that the one that was
Yeah, this is
causing
the
some
one that
problems?
I've got a little bit of difficulty with, and I actually abstained from this because the main purpose of the report was to seek a change in the reserve to change one piece from local purpose to recreation reserve so that a new well could be drilled to increase the water supply for drinking water in Christchurch. But there was no information in the report about anything about the well or the water or whether the resources are there. And I've since received another report from a company that's done some work on this. And the thing is that it's flagged an issue to me that in this report, which I can see up, I only got it last night and it's 26 pages now. I did ask if we could maybe defer this, but we've had advice this morning that it's reasonably urgent because they need to get this water supply pump station by June 2018. But what it has flagged to me, and from glancing at this report as I have, is that the water testing does not seem to be being done in these deep wells. They're 50 metres, so we have no data. Some of them are testing just for drinkable standard, but they're not testing for chemical and biological parameters. If there's any objections to this, not around this table, any public objections, it will go to a hearing. I have another question that will it go to a hearing regardless?
So is Justin or anyone here for that? Welcome.
Great.
So we have all the staff here, so you can ask anything you want. Wow.
Thank you. Right.
More staff than chairs.
So, can I ask a question or two?
Sure.
Would this go to a hearing even if there's no objections?
No. So we publicly notified it. There was no objections at all to the reclassification. So we're now in the process of just getting council, because the board approved the reclassification, we're now here at council to obtain their approval on behalf of DOC to change the classification as well. There's no objections, so there's no requirement for anything further in terms of public notification.
So if it goes ahead and the well is installed, does that would need a resource consent?
Yeah.
And at that point, I think there's an issue of stream depletion. I've heard saying that gets addressed at the consent hearing.
There are three issues over here. One is the interference in it. So on the water quality, it has been shown that deeper wells has much better water quality, and that's the purpose of this project. We use shallow wells, we have to go deeper wells. So there are about 14 wells in this particular zone which are deeper, and they seem to be having good water quality. So this is from the desktop study, from the data which you have. The second issue is on the yield. Now, again, for the deeper wells, it has been shown that the yields for the deeper wells, they have enough. They have about 30 liters per second, which is our required amount. Third one is the interference. Now, we will be drilling through 4 aquifers going below 100 meters. So we will be looking. So the deeper aquifers have less action on the surface water. It's only the shallow wells which has more effect. But the main part is we are going to drill an exploratory well first. To drill this well, to look at the water quality, the quantity of water, and the interference, all these aspects first. And that's what we do most of the time. And then we will start drilling the other wells when we have confirmation on all these 3 issues, and we need the ECAN resource approval for that as well. So we are going through that process.
And I must admit that I was quite surprised to see that we had so many wells in that area, and we need more in order to supply our drinking water. But I'm just wondering that when I read the fact that the water is not actually being tested for these other things, could we maybe suggest, or can we make a submission to the consent, to the resource consent? Can council make a submission to the resource consent?
Sorry, which parameters are you concerned about in particular?
Which what?
Testing for biological and for, what was the other one?
It's the water testing for the biological and chemical parameters, and also the collection and reporting back to council on of that data.
I'm sure we're doing that anyway as part of, for all
No,
our
it
drinking water
says in the
supply
report
wells.
it's not. There's a lot of them not being tested.
Right.
But that could happen?
I'm sure it could.
I think what
So
they're saying
is it
they-
actually
they
being
have
tested
been
for?
tested in that area because there's no deep wells in that area at the moment. But when we do a full chemical and biological test for each well we drill, so each acre that we go through we'll be testing.
Right, and is that ongoing, right?
Oh, yes, it is ongoing. It's for existing wells, the council has a ongoing water quality. They go around monthly checking all the wells for the
And that's council or ECAN?
council.
I think the difference
Get
is
that
that
information
PEP
now.
report was based on a lot of residential private wells, and we're drilling public wells, so the testing is different for the public compared to private. They
So-
don't require the quality that we do.
So you could actually get that data now without any difficulty.
That's great.
So can we move this now then?
Can I just, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
then?
sure, yeah.
I just wonder what about the depletion issue? Because that's clearly a problem, especially with things heating up and demands on the water around the city and more widely. How is that monitored?
We do that as part of the groundwater consent application. When we drill a well, we test it and then we monitor all the wells in the local area just to see what drawdown effect there is. In this particular case, there's no deep wells within 2.5 kilometres, so it's not expected to have any effect.
And the need for the well is because of the increasing demand for water in the region, in the area?
Two reasons. One is because we have a shallow well, which doesn't meet the Ministry of Health requirements. We could replace that well, and also to cater to the increased demand, actually. So those are the two reasons.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the information. I just wanted to make sure, and just remember this, we're not actually voting on the well today, we're voting on the reserve classification. So
Okay.
happy, thank you.
So you're okay to move, Ali? Is it okay to second Pauline? Okay, so moved Ali, seconded Pauline. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And can we perhaps finish?
Thank you. I think everything else
These are the 18th November, 2 December and 16 December. Moved Ali, seconded Pauline. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Paul, do you need to be anywhere for the next 10 minutes? No? Would it be okay if we broke the morning tea now and did you after morning tea? Okay, thanks.
Hey Vicky, there was a part A on 323, did you need, is that all done?
Part A on where?
323. Oh, we did that before, didn't we?
We did that before. Keep
Oh yes, it's in there twice because of the previous report. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you. In terms of, there's no Parts A, but there is, I just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things before making a few comments, if I may. Item number 4 in the minutes here on page 344, to start with the Smile campaign. I'm sure the councillors are all aware of that. And Raf's smiling, so that's good.
Go on, Yanni.
Squeeze one out. Come on, Councillor Johansson.
I've got a small one.
Bit of work there. It's all about welcoming migrant workers into everyday life in New Zealand, and we Community Board's really supportive and hope to be able to work with that campaign, and just want to encourage the council too as well. And over the next page, 345, it mentions the predator-free Port Hills as a concept, and the board has supporting the concept of a predator-free Port Hills. You only need to have a look at somewhere like Zealandia in Wellington to see what an amazing success something like that could be. Even in my view, even if it's just a small area, we can have a predator fence, and it would just be amazing for our city and a gift to future generations too. And so apart from what's in the minutes there of that community board meeting, I just wanted to mention a few things. The board is really, really pleased with the process and the outcome of the consultation around the cycleway that goes through Addington, the Little River Link. The staff listened really well to the community board's concern and the community. The consultation was overwhelmingly positive, and community board has been supportive all the way of the cycleway, and I just want to commend staff, Councillor Clearwater, particularly Jay Seepy, who's our one of the community development advisor, who has really strong links in Addington.
Carolyn Potter.
And Carolyn Potter on the board, who also has really strong links into Addington, and they all together. It's a great example of everyone working together and doing their job well. They all worked to make sure that was a success. And related to that is the 30 km/h limits. We were told in a memo that we couldn't have 30 km/h limits unless people were already driving 30 km/h, which is quite tautological. And we would like, in terms of the speed limits reviews, to be able to, we'd like the possibility of some areas after public consultation with 30 km/h. Safer streets for pedestrians and bikes and families. And finally, I just wanted to point to, as we do, that the Heathcote River is our number one priority as a board. As you see, people of Christchurch are sick of dirty rivers, and the Heathcote has gone a long way from the industrial sewer it was, but it's still got a very, very long way to go. And it's been the poor cousin of the Avon for a long time, but actually it was the most prized by Mana Whenua because it was a rich source of food, and it's actually a significant pre-European history attached to the Heathcote, and it really would be great if in the annual plan some of the money that would be that was being allocated for the Mid-Heathcote Master Plan, which is $100,000 each year for 10 years, could be brought forward, so that so not asking for more money, asking for spending to be more spending up front.
Sorry, can I just ask a question of one thing that Paul said? I'm not familiar with the Little River. That cycleway that you were mentioning. Does that go on State Highway?
It does go along the side of State Highway 73 Brougham Street.
Right. Just because I know at our community board, one concern came up that where NZTA are doing road widening, they're not putting off-street cycleways in, and I just wondered whether they were putting one there.
Well, it was a subject of negotiation with NZTA. I do believe it's off-road on Gerald Street North. So
it's already off-road.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Moved, seconded Phil. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And thank you for waiting so quickly. The next one is item number 33, but I'm a director of CCHL, so I shouldn't be in the chair. Raf, do you want to chair.
Well, Raf's also
No, he's not a director now. But he's chair of strategy and finance, which is where it's come from. That's why I was on him.
We can just, we can just move it and.
Just do it. Just a formality.
Are you going to sit back from it?
Well, I shouldn't really be part of it.
Okay, we're just receiving information. We're just receiving
Yeah, I
it.
know, but I shouldn't.
Okay, any questions? Okay, well, I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried.
Is that a record?
Yeah.
He's a great chair.
Did you enjoy the walk?
Okay, the next one is the Rickerton Bush, item number 34. And there's some of you who need to step back and moved Phil and seconded Raph. Put that, those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed carried. Thank you.
The geckos are doing well.
Yeah. The Central Plains Joint Committee, I suspect this won't be quite as short. Ian would like to come and answer questions. So the recommendation from Strategy and Finance is to withdraw a set of... Are there any questions on...
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. I'd like to ask, what are the implications of either staying in as a set law, or the implications either way, staying in or withdrawing?
There really aren't.
As you see them.
There really aren't any implications. We're a set law, but the trustees have the responsibility and all the powers they need to administer the trust and make sure it meets the objects of the trust, and we don't have any liability at all.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Dave.
Phil and I were representatives on this, and other commitments have actually prevented us getting to any meeting to date. Haven't had any. Well, I say I had a couple.
They had one in Darfield.
Is there a need for councillor representation ongoing, or do we become defunct?
As Kelvin Coe mentioned in his letter of last year, the scheme has reached the point where stage 1 is now open and up and running. They're operating it. There was always going to be a review of some sort at that stage because things have moved from the planning stage, the resource consent stage, into the construction and operation. Central Plains Water Limited has obviously been responsible for the construction phase. The trust owns the resource consents but have licensed the company to use them. The trust is there to make sure that the resource consents are used in accordance with the granting of those consents. And it has a mix of Ngāi Tahu, farming, environmental representatives, and appears to get on and monitor the things it needs to monitor and manage the things it needs to manage without a great deal of input from either council. Obviously, Selwyn has more skin in the game than we do. It has a financial commitment, and I think just recently it agreed to advance further funds. We don't have any financial implication, any financial interest in the work of the trust. So, you know, all Selwyn want to know is, are we in or are we out? It doesn't really bother them one way or the other. They just would like to know.
As a settler, we're obviously going to go out, but my question really was, is there a need for this council or a desire for this council to still have some representation on the trust?
The only powers we have are to appoint or remove trustees. it's really up to the council as to whether or not it wants to.
So all you're going to decide is whether you withdraw as a settler of the trust, and if you decide against that, then you obviously remain as a settler of the trust. So are there any other questions of Ian? Yanni?
Yeah, so really what we're talking about is giving up the power to appoint trustees?
Yeah, basically.
Or remove trustees?
Yeah.
So is there, I can't see the reason why we would give up that power if we were concerned about protecting some of the environmental things. So ensuring that we had trustees that had a focus on environmental rather than commercial would seem to be inherently good if we wanted to look at some of the outcomes that have caused concern. So what's the benefit, or what's the benefit in not being able to appoint trustees by withdrawing from it?
Look, I'm not going to go into bat either for or against on this. At the moment, it is what it is. We are a settlor. We have the power to appoint or remove trustees. If you want to retain that interest, that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine too. All Selwyn wants to do is know whether we're in or out. And I wasn't sure, which is why it's come to the committee and the council to...
And so the recommendation from Strategy and Finance rather than from Ian is the withdrawal.
Yep.
Yeah. Andrew, yours a question?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I'm interested in the relationship between ourselves remaining, the council remaining as a settlor of the trust, and the positions of the two councillors that we have on the Central Plains Water Joint Committee. Is the membership of the Joint Committee directly related to the whether we remain a settlor issue, or are they two separate issues?
The purpose of the committee was to meet and discuss any issues that might arise with the trust. If we're not going to be a settlor, there appears little point in remaining on the joint water.
So the two effects essentially are that we would no longer be able to appoint trustees, and we would no longer have that representation on the joint committee.
Yes, it'd be...
And the two are related, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Are there any more questions for Ian?
I wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, you make a comment, but are there any more questions? No? Okay, you're off the hook, Ian, and we're now on to comments. Go for it, Phil.
I just want to say that given the short time, well, some of these things can take quite a bit of time. If council want to remain as settlers, so be it. I don't have a strong view either way. It doesn't seem to be a lot of skin in the game for us. But for example, if Councillor East wants to remain on, and if another councillor would like to be a settler too, I'm fine with that. But basically, I don't have the time to attend the meetings given my other workload. I just want to say that.
Okay, that's fine. Andrew, then Glenn.
Yeah, I've not heard anything that convinces me that we should withdraw as a settlor. I believe that there are potentially, and I appreciate there have been very few meetings and very little activity in this space, but that's not to say that there wouldn't be in the future. I think there are environmental concerns that we may want to have the ability to be involved in, and certainly there are regional economic impacts which come about as a result of Central Plains Water that the city would have some interest in as well. So for that reason, I would suggest that we remain as a settlor. I think having two councillors involved is a good idea, and I certainly have heard what Phil Clearwater has just said regarding his capacity to continue in that role, but certainly would like to look at appointing a second person. And I haven't had this conversation, but I was wondering whether Councillor Pauline Cotter would be interested in doing that.
Well, shall we come to whether we stay as a settler of the trust, and then if you want to appoint an additional one?
Yeah.
So you give notice that if that is lost and we stay on, that you would like to move an amendment to appoint an additional trustee.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Any other discussion? Otherwise, we're just going to come to a vote. It'll just be yes or no. Glenn.
Yeah, thank you. This is the kind of report in a way you would think is quite innocuous. That, you know, it looks like it could fly under the radar, but 2007 and around that time was huge, and the whole Central Plains water scheme provoked huge upset in the community. So my question here is, which way do we go on this? Do we stay in or not? We may not have any kind of skin in the game that Ian was talking about, but politically, you know, there's some big questions to think over, to mull over, and in terms of exercising leverage, are we better to stay in or not? So I think we just need to proceed carefully. My inclination is actually to stay at this point. I think it's spelt set law too, LOR. But I'm open to counter-arguments to that.
Okay, are there any other counter-arguments?
Well, I mean, I've looked at this. I see no reason for us to be a settler. The trust was set up for a specific reason. That's been carried out in terms of setting up Central Plains Water. We have no shareholding in it, no interest in it. It's way outside our boundaries. And as we're often complaining about these people being involved in our business, this is not our business. I don't think we need to be involved. If people want to be involved, well, good luck to them. But there hasn't been a meeting for 3 years, and it just seems...
And nobody's noticed.
So, you know, there's no reason for us to be.
Okay.
Appropriate to ask Raf a question or not?
No.
No?
No, but you could probably word it in a speech.
Okay, all right.
It's
just
a
quickly.
good challenge for you, Ali.
I understand what Raf's saying, and I totally hear what Andrew's just said as well.
That one next to you.
Yeah. And what concerns me is we know about the issues of water, related to water in the wider Canterbury area. There are some who feel far more is being taken than should be and is affecting our rivers and the quality of our water. So even though it's outside our boundaries, I don't think it is separate to the city and what affects our city. And that's the issue that I have some concerns about. Yeah.
So what I intend to do is put 1 and 2 separately when you've finished talking. Yeah. I don't know if Raf got the question out of that one.
I think you have to understand...
But no, it wasn't Raf. Good try, though. Yanni.
In the wider context of the work we're doing, particularly around the Three Waters strategy, which is in its early days and it's kind of getting developed, actually, I think we've acknowledged through that process that water is a region-wide issue. And my reluctance to remove as a settler of this trust, and can I say, I mean, I've always had strong concerns about the Central Plains Water Scheme and the impact on the environment and some of the ways and processes by which it was set up and the consent was transferred as an asset for a company to go and do all sorts of stuff. But the reason I support staying in at the moment is to actually understand what we may be able to utilise being a settler for to get better environmental outcomes of a scheme that's clearly going to go ahead. And, of course, we've got a whole Three Waters strategy as well. So until we resolve that Three Waters strategy, I personally can't see the benefit in giving up a right to be a settler to this trust. It may be, as we work through what we want to do in terms of water for our city and the impact that it has across the region, that we decide actually there is no point and we get out of it. Or it may be that we wish to appoint new trustees that have a different focus than a commercial focus and maybe have some environmental understanding. And it's not, I mean, one of the questions I asked is who are the current trustees? And I've got a list, I think, from 2012, so it would be good just to check around that, because I think there was also a change made a few years ago around Ngāi coming on board. I'm not sure if it as a trustee or as part of the company. So there are wider issues at play here than just whether we want to be a member. I personally think we need to improve, this is not just around Central Plains, but a number of external organisations or committees, or the lack of oversight and regular monitoring and correspondence. It was the same with civic assurance.
I'm just reminding you, there's a 3-minute speaking time.
So it was the same with these sorts of things where we need a better process to get the invites to the meetings. And if we've got a request to appoint a trustee, we get a paper come to council around the process and around the ability to vote and participate. And I think it's an area that hopefully we can start to address. But I don't think that's a reason to get out of it, simply because we haven't been doing what we should have been doing, if that's been the case.
So we have arguments in favour and arguments against, and unless there's any further debate, I'm going to put the first one, that the council received the information contained in the report, moved Raf, seconded Tim. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, carried. And then the second one, moved Raf, seconded Jamie, that the council withdraw as a settler of the trust. And what we'll do is, can we just have a show of hands? Is that okay? So if you're in favour of withdrawing, please raise your hand. 1, 2. I'm figuring it's going to be lost. And if you're not in favour of withdrawing, please raise your hand. So that's more than 2. Okay, right. Okay, so that's lost. And then you gave notice, Andrew, that you wanted to move an additional trustee, is it? Is it a trustee?
Well, that we replace Phil Clearwater as a member of the joint committee with another councillor, and I'm suggesting, but I haven't had this discussion with Pauline yet.
Is Pauline okay with the suggestion that's been made?
That Pauline be that person.
Okay, so the suggestion moved Andrew and seconded Phil, or maybe you can't because you're affected, Tim? Yep, is that Phil be replaced on the joint committee with Pauline? Okay, I'll put that unless there's any huge debate. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Pauline took no part and Phil took no part. And is that the only one? Yep. Right, so are we through that one now? Awesome. So that's item 3, and then that's that whole item. Right, so we've carried that, we've done that one, and now we're on to agenda item.
If they're just sitting about.
Another, the minutes of 21 January, moved Raf, seconded Jamie. Put those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Item 37, the Chairman's report of the Funding Review Working Party. Is this you, Andrew?
Yes, it is, yeah. Yep, and I'm happy to make some opening remarks on this.
And I've suggested also an additional one that came up a wee while ago about delegations to community boards such that they don't have to ask us to take their Strengthening Communities Fund and put it into discretion. Have we got that, captured that somewhere? Yeah, so we're about to capture that as well. Andrew?
Yeah, sure. So this Funding Review Working Party has been meeting for the last 18 months or so, and we've been tasked with a review of the way that Council does its funding, and a number of requests or a number of requests for things to consider came out of the Metropolitan Funding meeting last year, and also there have been issues raised in annual plan and long-term plan consultations that we've taken into account as well. So the proposals of the Working Party that are in front of us today aim to reduce compliance costs, both for Council and for groups that are applying, by simplifying and changing both the policy and the accountability requirements. This is around easier access to funds, faster decision-making, reducing compliance costs and reducing the time spent by both groups and Council on making applications and assessing applications, increased flexibility of the way that funds can be applied so that good initiatives are able to be funded, so that grassroots activity is encouraged, and so that partnerships with Council are encouraged in a match funding type arrangement. Council, through this set of recommendations, has an ability to show that we absolutely recognise the key role that communities play and community groups play in achieving the social outcomes and objectives that we're looking for, and an ability to show continued commitment to funding community groups and communities to achieve their objectives, and that we continue to support that in a way that allows them the flexibility and the ease of access to these funds, and so that the funds can be distributed in the most equitable way.
Okay, thank you, Phil. And then Alan.
Look, I'm happy with the recommendations now. Not being on the committee, I'm pleased though that section D2 does cover my concerns, and I think it's good that now finally funding for early learning centres will be based on need, and there's a process for that. My concern has been that with it being a wider fund, that the early learning centres who not only have great needs, but in fact support parents and kids who are living in poverty, that in fact they may miss out. Now, I'm confident, having checked with staff and looking at this carefully, that in fact that should not happen. In fact, the case for funding for those early learning centres will be enhanced, so they will gain that. So I'm quite happy to support the recommendations now too.
Okay, thank you, Ali.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of questions, and I don't know whether I've missed it. My eyes were...
Actually, no, quite fair. I should have gotten the
Yeah.
staff here for questions. My
Thank you.
apologies. Yeah.
Some of the print and just my eyes weren't working properly last night when I looked at this, and I could not see any information related to the Youth Ideas Fund, the Out of the Box Fund and the Community Match Fund when it comes to amounts or criteria. Have I missed it in the report?
No,
Why is it not in the report? I think that's pretty key.
Yeah, so, I mean, if these funds are approved by council, you know, the staff would then need to go away and develop all of that
Can we
criteria.
approve funds without knowing what the proposed criteria and amounts are?
There's a mock-up on page 444, 445 and 446.
I think attachment C.
Attachment C, that has some details about each fund.
So on, say again,
444.
Attachment C.
Last 3 pages.
444
Right,
and
okay.
445 have got a mock-up of the funds.
So that's the information.
They're both very small funds, so they might be up to 2,000 or 1,000 or whatever, quite quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question based on that then is, when we first came to office, I know that there were concerns raised around the council table about how fractured and all over the place our funding system is, and where money goes and where it doesn't and where it can come from and so forth. Do you not see that this will in fact further fracture that?
No.
Or do you see positives in it? That's, yeah.
I think anything that is responsive to the emergent needs, and these new funds have been discussed as a result of people seeing emergent needs in the community where we need to be quick, support innovation, provide an opportunity to be able to engage with an organisation or a person very quickly, get the money out, those kinds of things. I think that they'll be a very interesting opportunity for people to navigate their way into funding where they otherwise might not have in the past. For example, is it called Out of the Box in Shirley Papanui?
No, I've never heard of Out of the Box before.
Who's got that one? Is it?
I think you're possibly thinking of off the ground and light bulb moment funds.
So very little things that want to get underway sort of within the next month, quick, fast, big turnaround. So the suggestion, well, one of them is up to 1,000, one of them is up to 5,000, which at the moment, in terms of the discretionary response fund, staff have delegated authority up to 15 anyway, don't they? So it's just to respond to the community's needs, because that's what the youth, what the fund looked at, especially in community matching.
And we don't have anything in place out of our dozens and dozens of funds and way to fund that could either be tweaked, adjusted or made more efficient.
Maybe we do, and that's why these are mock-ups of ideas, and it may be that these work more efficiently. So at the moment, you can only go to a community board for something that you just want to do locally. If it's something that affects Metropolitan, you could come through the discretionary response fund, but these ones might be something that you can do way quicker. The youth one is actually targeted at young people having ideas that they want to do. Pauline, sorry, and these should be questions. My apologies, I took debate before questions.
Yeah, mine's a
The
question.
questions?
Yep.
Go
Can I
for it.
just,
Yep.
on page 416, and it's L, can I get the staff to just talk us through the cross-unit working party that we're looking at? And is that, when you say cross-unit, that's within the council?
That's correct. So there had, the focus of the work was predominantly looking at strengthening communities funding. However, the terms of reference for the funding review working group indicate that there may be a need to look at other streams of funding. So it could be other grant streams, potentially line items was something that was minted in some of the discussion. It would be useful to have a mandate from council to be able to do that work together with other units.
Yep, good. And the other question is, and I couldn't see it in here, is we did talk about making the application forms a lot easier for people. Is that in here somewhere, or?
Not, well, I mean, it's covered, but that's sort of another body of work as well. So
It's coming up.
It is, yeah, and it involves some pretty technical IT stuff because it's all integrated.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And we also did discuss perhaps looking at other funding organisations and perhaps more unifying the forms. Absolutely. Which feedback from the community is just, oh, hallelujah, bring it on, you know. if we can make things easier for people, because these applications are quite complex for them to do. So good work, thank you.
Okay, Yanni, and then Jimmy,
Thank you.
and Phil.
I was just trying to understand if there was any resolution around the inflation adjustment.
Yes, yeah. There's a, it's J on page 412.
I was just looking at 419, so.
Oh, I shouldn't be answering, please. It's all right.
Right. So, we just do it as part of the annual plan or the long-term plan?
Well, it's in here as the long-term plan. It's LTP.
Right. So changes would normally go through the annual plan process. So are we going to get a paper this annual plan to say, do you wish to inflation adjust it?
We can.
I mean, that's personally what I would support. We seem to do it just automatically for CCT and CDC, which I don't quite understand why we couldn't just make a decision to automatically as this rather than have a big debate.
No.
Yeah, hasn't been for.
No, not for,
15
it
years.
has come to council before, but never got through.
If we could,
Yep.
I would
Yep,
welcome
absolutely.
that. But then I guess I just wanted, I think it's more of a policy because I don't understand why CCT and CDC just automatically get it. So anyway, that's cool. I had concern over the early learning centres. Last time that this issue came up, a number of them were quite concerned to have been, just at least consulted. So I just wondered whether that's something that we should actually go and consult on with the centres. And I'm mindful that we've also asked for work to be done around the leasing policy. So I don't think you can, I'm just wondering how you can separate out the lack of ring fencing versus those other requirements around to get a consistent leasing policy. For example, the skirt companies don't pay anything to go on council land in early learning centres.
So let's not get into those, but
No,
just
no,
in
but
terms
just-
of this
We're aware of
resolution,
that, yeah.
Right.
the
We're
early
aware.
learning centres, will any of them be surprised by this?
They've all been spoken to by
Thank
their
you.
local advisors. Yeah, and
Thank
we'll
you
be
very
working
much.
And what's their
very
feedback
closely.
there?
I think they like and they appreciate being in contact. And there are always concerns when there's, the chance that their people are perceiving that their funding will be cut. We're very interested in ensuring that the funding gets to those in greatest need. And I think it's just clear and consistent communication with the ELCs. We've got good relationships with them across the city. And working with them as we find out information and working more closely with property in the rents, that side of the work, and the funding side of the work as well.
So we're doing work around the rent that we charge and on what basis, and that will come back as part of any.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And then, just another question. Just in regards to the criteria, if you go to page 423, you've got the revised criteria. Gambling and prize money has been removed. Retrospective costs have been removed. Religious ministry has been removed. It just seemed to me that there's some pretty fundamental principles of things that we probably wouldn't want to fund as a from the ratepayer point of view, that we're now making eligible, which kind of concerns me. So what was the thinking behind removing those? I mean, there's other ones in there that I agree with, but just in terms of the ones that wouldn't really, in my view, pass the front page test, what thought's been given to
Well, what specific ones?
Okay, well, I'll go through. Stock or capital market investment, gambling or prize money, entertainment costs, I've got a question mark around, alcohol and hospitality versus actual events. Small claims tribunal, professional disciplinary body hearings, and then the ones where the activities or initiatives with the primary purpose to promote religious ministry, political objectives, commercial or profit-orientated interests. The medical and healthcare costs one, I had a question mark as well.
Okay, just those ones that have been removed on page 423.
mean, I think the idea was that we simplify the criteria to give elected members, I guess, greater flexibility in how they fund more strategically. It's not saying that if we get an application for something like this, as staff and our advisors understand responsible use of ratepayer money and wouldn't recommend it to council. But it was really just to simplify that criteria, bring it in line so we're sort of consistent with the wards at the metropolitan level. But again, it's if it comes to council, it doesn't have to be funded just because it's been removed. So for something like gaming or...
I personally would feel more comfortable being more explicit about that.
Yep.
So you want to keep gambling or prize money as a restricted thing?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody have any objection to that.
But,
I sent a question around it.
So has anybody got any problem with that?
but I just wonder, rather than going through each one today, is it possible to ask for a revised exclusion list? That's just...
So could we possibly go
developed.
through this exclusion list only at Ched? Does that create a
Yep,
problem?
I'd be happy to do
Okay.
that.
Right, just the exclusion list so far, yep.
And
Okay.
the legal challenges in around the
Yeah,
consenting as
that
well,
includes the
so-
entire
so-
exclusion.
so
So that includes page 43 only,
And
right?
424.
40,
It goes
yep,
over.
sorry, yep. Okay, thank you, Yanni. Jimmy?
Okay, one question. The issue of my question is same as Ali Jones. The 416, the G. But I'm a different question. Because this is a new pilot funding stream, especially these three categories, use idea, out of box plan. Whether they have any plan, or for a time frame for kind of funding application, the workshop seminar, to give the community fully understand, because the new stream, otherwise they lost the opportunity to apply for, because each one community should be equal opportunity.
Absolutely,
Okay,
Councillor.
thank you.
Taken on board.
Okay, thank you. Phil, you were next. Question?
Thank you. I guess whenever a ring fence fund is changed, and the ring as it had been for the early learning centres, there's some risk that in fact some early learning centres may lose out. So I guess one thing is, can you assure me though that, as I indicated before, that in areas where there's high need, that those early learning centres will not be disadvantaged?
That's exactly what Claire...
By the new process.
She said she wanted the funding to go into areas of highest need.
You are, Ken. And I'm just wondering to make, I guess, to get the best possible outcome too, because some learning centres, where there'll be early learning centres where parents will be in the middle, where people on average incomes now may be struggling to pay rents, all that kind of thing. Clearly, if some rents need removed from early learning centres, there'll be some influence on a lot of people potentially. So I'm just wondering, just what Councillor Johansson referred to before, in terms of deciding on the criteria, if in fact the early learning centres or representatives from them could also be involved in that process, so as part of the consultation. I'm just wondering if we, just to clarify that, if we should just
Claire
make a
says
note.
she'll do it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we need a note that way or just do it?
No, Claire's just undertaken to
They'll
do
do
it.
it? Right.
Yep.
Thank you,
Okay,
Claire.
Tim?
Under 3.22, so it's going to go into the pot, and kind of leading on to what the others are talking about, is there any risk that the pot would be empty by the time, say, an early learning centre has been identified? So there would be no, I mean, it's a rent subsidy basically.
All these actual monies come to the Metropolitan Working Group for decision. So the actual numbers come before you all at the time of the grants.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Raf, did you have a question?
I did. Yeah, the early learning stuff's interesting. I mean, I always struggle when we let government off the hook in terms of their responsibilities for funding some of this stuff. And I hope we continue to sort of push for them to make sure they're funding early learning properly. But for me, it's the bit where you say that you are increasing clarity and reducing compliance costs, and just feels to me like you're creating more complexity around the number of new funds for quite small grants. And I'm just wondering where you feel, or is there any information here about the compliance costs that you're reducing in terms of the numbers you think that are going to be reduced by?
Not in this report. So there's a second tranche of work with another report due back to the Funding Working Party by December on how we can further reduce those transaction and compliance costs. These new funds, again, just reiterating what's already been said, the idea is to trial at a metropolitan level, you know, similar to what's happening out in the wards for, you know, quick, responsive, small amounts for new ideas, so that, you know, compliance and transaction costs for those would be low. It'd be a very quick turnaround.
Why would they be lower? I mean, if you've got someone applying for, say, an under $1,000 fund and they want, say, $400, I could quite easily see the $400 being chewed up in people actually processing the application, because, you know, someone says, oh, I don't know, a young person goes, I want $400 to make a video about, well, what? I mean, how do you assess that? You've got to go through a process, you've got to make sure it's kosher, you've got to make sure that the person is who they say, you know, that takes time and processing. And so as these grants get smaller and smaller, the amount of cost towards the processing rises as a percentage of the grant you're giving out. So, but you're saying that the compliance costs are falling, so I'm just
I think it depends on the delegations too, that it's the same out in the wards too for small amounts of funding. The staff writes a report and a recommendation and it goes up through to you to make decisions. So depending on how the delegations for the distribution of the new funds go, that would, well, if there was a staff delegation, or certainly the Funding Review Working Party had the delegation to approve this funding, it would reduce the time having to come through the council process to a board meeting.
Yes.
That's one
I get that,
fast-track.
but when you're presenting something like this and you're talking about reducing compliance costs, but you haven't provided any numbers on actually what those costs might be, or how you're reducing them, or how much money you're saving, or how much more efficient it's being, it's not quite clear.
I think we could provide some analysis around that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both compliance cost and speed, I think, is the other thing.
Speed is another the key thing too, yeah.
We should be fast anyway.
Can I just suggest that in terms of Yanni's suggestion that Andrew was okay with, that attachment A, the detailed revisions to criteria and policy, can I suggest we delegate that to Ched?
Yeah, I don't, as long as councillors are comfortable with that, I don't see a need for that to come back here. I don't think there's anything which has been suggested that wouldn't be comfortable.
So moved Yanni, seconded Andrew, that attachment A, the detailed revisions to criteria and policy, a further review be delegated to Ched. Okay? Sorry, you need to write it up. Okay, so it will be in addition that attachment A, pages 422 to 436.
Just for clarification, does that go back through the working group first then?
I think Ched could do it.
I'm just conscious of what we have on the agenda. Slow it up, okay, fine.
Just, yeah. The detailed revisions to criteria and policy go for further review, and that be delegated to the Ched committee. Okay, so are we good now?
Can I ask another question, please?
Yep.
Go for it, yeah?
Yeah, go for it.
Can I just clarify? So the information that Raf's asked about, which is the visibility on how this is actually more efficient and will save and to what degree, the mock-up that is there, is that exactly what we're going with?
So that's a mock-up. Obviously, we'll need to develop some further, I guess, more specific.
So what Raf's asked for, the fact that this is what we may not be going with, and you're asking us to authorise the opening of these new pilot funding streams, and we don't have all of the information to make that decision. Would that be fair?
So they open in July.
Yeah, so these ones would open in the 1st of July, so in the new financial year.
I don't care whether they open in December or in 2018. You are asking us to authorise the opening of these 3 new funds. We don't have any visibility on what saving it provides and how, and we don't have any confirmation of how they will actually work and what the criteria is.
But it will come back to the Funding Review Working Party, as I understand, Andrew. So the reason that they don't open now is because there is a wee bit of further work to be done. So they're conceptual, and then, as I understand it, they come back to the funding review working
Ellie's
group.
not comfortable
No,
signing
we are
off a conceptual.
authorising the opening of 3 funds. As I said, it doesn't matter whether they open in 6 months, 2 weeks or 4 years. We're authorising the opening of 3 new funds on G, and we have those other points that I've just raised. And if anyone can tell me I've got that wrong, please do.
Yeah, the concept that's here is one, to make it simple, and obviously not all of this work has been done. That's why they don't open until July.
I get that,
And when
Vicky.
there is further
I
work
get that.
having been done.
Okay, I've made my point and that's all
Okay,
I'll say.
radio. Okay, so this is moved by Andrew, seconded by Phil, and I haven't got yet any other amendments except what's here, which is 3 and 4.
Phil.
Can I put them? Yanni?
Just in terms of D, or
D, yep.
around the early learning centres, I just want to make it, I wanted that one to go separate and just speak to it, but I also just wanted a note added that the issue of the charging the rent level is being reviewed and some time frame on that.
So you want D dealt with separately? I'll do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a resolution that just makes it clear that we are
Okay,
reviewing.
I'll deal with D separately.
The charges.
Can I put the rest? Those in favour, please say aye.
Sorry, are we putting the whole thing?
Yes, I'll just put in the rest except D.
Sorry?
Putting the rest except for
Yeah,
D.
well, I can't sign off G, I'm sorry.
G separately,
So I can't approve that.
Okay, that's all right, you just vote against, Ellie.
Yeah, but are you putting the whole lot?
Yeah, except for D, which is what I've been requested to put separately.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't hear her, Phil. Yep, okay.
Okay, I'll put those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. And then Yanni wants D put separately. So can I assume that everybody was happy with 3 and 4, the direct stuff to allow community boards to do that directly, and that the rest of the stuff go back to Ched?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether that just needs to be a little bit clearer. Ched's going to make a final decision on that. It's going to review
Be
it and make a
delegated, yes,
final
sorry, it
decision.
should be delegated, and the decision be delegated to Ched. Sorry, the attachment
Detailed
A,
revisions to criteria and policy.
go back,
Go
sorry.
back to Ched for
For
further
further
review
review.
and a final decision.
Yeah.
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 Just makes it absolutely
Yeah,
clear.
thanks, yeah. Okay, so I'll put 3 and 4 just in case we haven't put those. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, carried. And then Yanni's asked that the Learning Centre 1D be put separately. And did you want to move
Yeah,
something,
I
Yanni?
mean, my preference would be that, I'm still worried about the consultation.
So what do you want to move?
Well, I just wanted to check whether we could consult on this through the annual plan alongside the new changes to the leasing policy. Because it's kind of hard to just make a decision on one. So for example, if we're charging $1 for the non-profit community centres to be on council land, then we actually don't need the red subsidy. But if we're charging full market rates...
But what do you want to actually move?
Well, I'd like to move that, 2 things. One is that we note that work is currently underway on a revised leasing policy for non-profit community groups on council land. And 2, that...
Wait a minute, let the guys capture it. Have you got that? For not-for-profits on council land?
Well, there should be. We've had resolutions.
Well, no, is there? Is there?
We've had resolutions come
It's not
through.
should there be. Is there?
There was the leasing policy that came to council and signed off prior to Christmas, but I'm not aware of any other wider development of a leasing policy.
There is a resolution from our community
So we
board.
probably better not note something that's not happening.
No, well, we've passed a council resolution on it. So that came through our community board because we were getting so many different community groups being charged different.
Can I just clarify, Yanni, is there anything additional underway?
Not that I'm aware of, and I can check with Angus to check, but I haven't seen another leasing policy that's come through, so I just need to go back and find out what was passed and what work's been done.
So we probably shouldn't note it if it's not underway. Do you want to move a different amendment?
Okay, then I'll just move that, that D be subject to consultation through the draft annual plan process.
Can I just clarify with Ian? Sorry, were you doing something?
I just remember last time this happened.
No, can I just clarify? So, Yanni, we're just talking about item D, which is the ring fencing in the Strengthening Communities Fund for the early learning centres. Yanni wants to make clause D subject to consultation through the draft annual plan process.
Yes.
Is there any problem with that? Right, okay.
So
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wonder if the discussion with the operators, the people who run the learning centres who are applying for the funds, if that's in fact what we just need to make a clear note of.
And that's happening, isn't it?
And Claire said it would be happening.
Happened, okay, right. So I think, okay, so I'm just going to take the amendment out, sorry guys. So just D, I'm just going to put separately now, moved Councillor Turner, seconded Councillor Clearwater. I'll put that, those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No, just have that recorded.
And Yanni wants his vote recorded against. Okay, so that's that report as a whole. I'll move it again just in case. Moved. Andrew, seconded that the report as a whole be received. Those in favour please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, guys.
Thank you.
The lovely the Urban Development Strategy and Implementation Committee. Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
So everybody's reasonably familiar with this. I think one of the things that we wanted to look at was a refresh of the terms of reference, such that if people could not be there, that they could actually have deputies, which have other people represent.
Or alternates.
Alternates is the word, because at the moment that's not a process that works.
Right. To change the terms of reference that apply to the UDSIC, that would need to be a decision made by the UDSIC, so that would probably need to be a paper that was discussed and put through the kind of framework that exists to support that particular committee.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a meeting tomorrow.
There is a meeting tomorrow, yeah.
Two of our people are not going to be able to be there.
Right.
So someone will have three and we'll have one, which is a bit weird.
It has been something that's been discussed on a couple of occasions, and ultimately the decision at the committee was to retain the three and not have alternates, and so it's not an issue which has not been discussed. It has been, and that's been the...
I was there for some of the discussion. That was very entertaining. But I'm not sure how we actually ask for this, whether it has to be one of you guys who asks for it, Phil. It might be better when there's more than one of you there.
Well, we've got it by Richard in this too, but yeah, there could be, it may be that we could re-raise the issue and make our case, especially with Christchurch City Councillors being particularly busy and the Mayor being away today as an example.
Okay, Paul.
Or tomorrow she'll be away.
I think it's incredibly important as we're going through the refresh process that there is an opportunity that we have full representation, and I think that may be the case to actually re-ask the committee to actually look at alternatives, because it's going to be important that we have the proper input through that refresh process.
Okay, so if we ask the committee representatives and to look at that for future, then you guys can do that, and you can know that the council has asked you to do that.
Maybe as part of the refresh process.
I could also ask for it through the CE's advisory group.
That's probably, yeah, a good way of doing it. Okay, debate. Yanni, then Andrew.
I just wanted to make a comment on what Councillor Lonsdale had just said. I think given the importance, the importance that's been raised, it would be good if we were to add to this resolution that we request our representatives on this body to raise this issue.
Sorry.
That's all right. Given the issue that has been raised, particularly the issue of the importance of this that has been raised by Councillor Lonsdale, it would be good, I think, if as part of our decision today, we were able to add a number 3 that said that we request our representatives on this body to raise the issue of alternates and discuss it. So, and then they can say, Council passed a resolution asking us to do this, so that they're actually fully representing the city, not just putting their own opinion forward.
So you'd like to move that, and you'll just give the words to those guys?
Yep.
And somebody will second it. Somebody will second it. Right.
May I have one question?
Yanni was next, and then you. Yep.
Two things. One is it's interesting to note on page 453 that it was even noted that the 12th of February clashes with the council annual plan meeting, and yet they still didn't change the date. But on page 455, I'm really trying to understand the rationale. I mean, we've got this memo which doesn't really explain why they've suddenly delayed this visioning exercise, and I am really questioning whether this is even the right process, and whether we can't use existing processes like share an idea rather than reinventing a huge duplication of marketing, comms, and just seems like this process is slowing down when it could just get underway with existing structures because they want to create a new structure. So what's behind the delay, and have we thought about other ways of achieving it within the time frame, like using our existing resources and campaigns?
So, in terms of the memo, that was a summary from the independent chair, who's Bill Wasley, and that's yet to be discussed at the UDSIC, so that will be discussed tomorrow. So that's all we have at this point in time, and I agree it's reasonably brief, but I think the concern was that we rush ahead with what would be quite an expensive, time-consuming, resource-hungry 3-day workshop without really necessarily having it sufficiently well sorted out what it needed to achieve. So that was the reason for the delay. In terms of the papers that are going up to the UDSIC tomorrow, I think the desire is to refresh the document and do that in a slightly more lean and mean fashion rather than necessarily go into a workshop at this point in time. But I think the recognition is that there needs to be a wider piece of work longer term to look at what the UDS is, what it seeks to achieve, how it's going to continue to operate. So at the moment, and this will be debated tomorrow, so I can't foreshadow what that debate will look like and what the outcomes will be. But that's the kind of the view at the officer level at this point.
And we could appoint you as a proxy for tomorrow, but we can't.
It's pretty significant, but we're not going to have no representation. We're spending quite a lot of money on this process, and we don't really have any say, and we don't have any chance to see what's being discussed tomorrow. So I'm really unhappy about this. Could we not suggest that this gets delayed to the next meeting where we have representation given and get a briefing to the full council before, so we can have a collective position?
Well, I think the majority of the cost associated with the UDS refresh was associated with the workshop. So if the workshop's not going ahead, then a lot of the costs will drop out. I mean, these meetings are set at the beginning of the year or a long time in advance, and it's difficult because all the other attendees from NZTA, Ngaitahu, CEL and Waimak ECAN need to be there as well. It's very difficult to defer items and then or change dates, certainly at this late stage.
Okay, so I haven't got any suggestions of amendments or anything, so I'm going to put what's here.
Well, I'll move under 2, that the council understands it will be discussed at tomorrow's UDS meeting, and given that we don't have representation at that meeting due to a scheduling conflict.
We do have some, I hope.
We've got one.
We ask that the matter be deferred so that the full council can consider the report and we can have full representation.
Are you asking for the workshop to be deferred?
The report, they're not doing the workshop, they've already cancelled that. So we put up, was it 800 grand or 600 grand or 400 grand, or how much money did we put in? I can't remember. We put in I thought it was several $100,000 into this process. They've now cancelled it, or going to discuss cancelling it. And if you look at the dates, I mean, obviously the workshops haven't occurred, so they have cancelled it. And we don't really have any understanding.
I can understand completely where you're coming from. I'm just not sure that the council doing this actually has any impact on this outfit. That's the difficulty I have with the outfit.
So they take our money and they do what they
No.
want.
I'm not.
I mean, we have representation on it, and that's the way it works in a collaborative leadership style.
So just in terms of this is a minute to us, really. It's not what do you want to do about it, is it? It's like they're not really asking for
That's correct. It's simply an update, and the purpose of these updates was because while we have 3 representatives on the UDSIC, it was simply to provide the rest of council with an update on what occurs at those meetings. So hence the reason for the minutes. And I guess the other matter I'd like to bring to your attention is that this will now sit with Helen Beaumont from now on, and so any resolutions might fall in her lap, which is
Richard, what would happen
convenient.
if Selwyn decided to go ahead, for example, with their special housing project, which was outside the recommendations of the UD? What would the UDSIC do?
The decisions like that go back to council for their making. So the whole, my interpretation of the way the UDSIC works, it's very much a collaborative leadership style. So it's not a decision-making committee as such. So major decisions about things like HASHA Accords or anything else really need to come back to the individual territorial authority or other authority to make that decision.
We did actually raise our concerns, both Phil and I, around that housing accord impact.
The Selwyn one, yeah. Okay, I'm not sure that whatever we pass here is going to make a blind bit of difference, actually, to be completely blunt about it.
It's not going to make a difference.
But I think the terms of reference would be incredibly useful to review, such that when somebody turns up to be a proxy for somebody else, they're not sort of having to go through a half-hour process while the chairman decides.
I think simply the view was that it was good to keep consistency of attendance, and the problem with
No,
proxies
I'm not
is,
seeking a justification. The process was awful, so I'm just, Anyway, I'm not sure that anything we pass here, Yanni, have you got actually an amendment?
No, I mean,
no, I don't think it's
people
good.
don't want to support an amendment.
Okay, so I'll put the information that's here. Can I put that? It's moved by somebody who's willing to move this. Pauline, seconded Dave. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you. Item 39. This is a submission that's already gone. Moved Raph, seconded Jamie. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, carried. On the supplementary, we've got a few items which we've already put onto the agenda. The appointment of a new electoral officer for the Christchurch City, page 5 of the supplementary, item 48. Moved Jimmy, seconded Ali.
Hang on, which one are we up to?
I'm on
Yes,
the supplementary one, which is the public section, the supplementaries.
That one or that one?
Not the public
Okay,
excluded.
yeah.
The one with the soft cover.
Item 48, 49.
Item 48, the appointment of a new
48.
electoral officer for the
thank you.
Christchurch City Council.
I was just concerned, I was just trying to understand how we come up with that person, not the individual, but that position, given that we've got a huge number of complex legal issues that are going to be arising throughout the year around regeneration, cost share renegotiation or discussion or whatever we call it, refresh of the blueprint, etc. I just wanted to understand why we thought that person would be appropriate rather than maybe continuing on with the existing returning officer as an independent appointment.
So the existing returning officer is moving on, so we need a new person. The person that we've identified has the right skills, and there's a whole team around legal, so all of those other issues will be managed across the team. And this is not a full-time job.
It can be pretty hectic.
At particular times, yes. So we've already put forward a plan around how we're going to manage the whole of the elections and the different work streams around it. But this is a specific statutory role.
Have any experience in local body elections?
I understand he has the right skills.
So that's a yes.
I can't personally tell you, but I understand from the team that he has the right skills for this job.
Okay, so I'm going to... You need to be on the bike.
Yeah, I forgot about the supplementaries.
Okay, so this was moved and seconded by somebody. Who was it? Ali and Jimmy, was it? Yeah. Okay, I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, carried. Cranford Basin.
Can we just wish Councillor Livingston, I presume, good luck on the coast to coast?
It's nothing really.
They kill me, mate.
That'll be all right.
Have you got your app? Yeah, good luck. Good luck, Glenn. It's very impressive. Really impressive. Okay, so this is moved Pauline, seconded Ali.
Yep. Oh, here's Tom. Good timing.
So I'm going to put it.
Well, yep. Do you know any explanation?
I think we've had some explanation.
It's going to have wonderful benefits.
Yep, yep, right. We're all happy about it.
Great, okay.
Okay.
Can I just check?
Oh,
sorry. Too late.
Has there been any consideration given to connections with the cycleways?
Sorry for the Cranford
Cranford, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of good. You know those little bikes that they go on the water? Yeah.
So, yes, I believe so, that the Sticks SNP has considered the cycleways route through Cranford. Our project does essentially go beyond what the SNP is trying to achieve, but strictly in the drainage sense. So, yes, there is integration with the cycleways planning through those other programs and projects that are occurring within the basin anyway. So, inside council programs and projects, yes, there is that coordination, but with this project, it's kind of to the side.
okay. Thank you very much. Moved Councillor Cotter, seconded Councillor Jones. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you. Public transport governance, just a wee issue. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This has been through, was it ITI committee, Phil?
Yes, but Richard was here before, but I just wondered.
Took off. A wise man.
Ray wrote the report. I just wonder if we should delay this till we have
No,
staff.
I think it's likely to go through. I don't think there's major hassles with it. Is there
All
anybody?
right.
Are you moving it, Phil?
I'm
With
certainly
the
moving
Phil's
it
moving
and
it.
make some comments.
I'll second.
The ITI committee's passed it and
Recommended it?
recommended it.
Yep.
And so Pauline's seconding it. Any
One
debate? Yeah.
Just one question of clarification or debate. I was just concerned that they make reference in the report to embedding it in before the election, because I would have thought that this would be something that new councils coming in, as they work through the triennial agreement, they work through the urban development strategy, they work through their relationships, would actually want to have the autonomy to make.
I think they do.
I think it's a pity the staff aren't here to answer that, but I will do my best, Yanni. My understanding is that because, in fact, each council will retain its own decision-making, in fact, it's already about setting up a process which will work more effectively. So, in fact, a new council coming in, or councils, there'll be, in effect, a vehicle available, and the new councils will be able to make further decisions about how that vehicle works.
But even more than that, Phil, as we understood it at ITI, and Ian will correct me if I'm wrong, this would have to be decided on again by each council after the
Indeed, I
election.
would think so.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
There's be little question
So
of
it
that, and I'm
doesn't-
sure the others will
doesn't
feel the
bind the
same.
next-
Okay, and just finally, just to clarify, there's no removal of delegated decisions that we currently exercise, particularly around things like community boards.
Yes, well, there's reference in the report, and it's good that Rayanne has arrived. She can speak to this probably better than I can, but there's clear reference in the report that, in fact, the decision-making, for example, around bus shelters, that has yet to be decided. So, in effect, that is like a separate issue today. We know it, and it needs working through.
But is there any suggestion that that's going to be removed from community boards?
There's no
and go to
suggestion at
this
all.
committee?
No, we'd love you to do all the bus
Nothing
stops.
about
It's
delegation.
entirely up to each council.
Okay. So, yeah. Jimmy?
Thank you. I have only the time frame, the questions. If we review the page 25, the last paragraph in here, this principle if we adopt today, but the staff will, establish the agreement and also establish this joint committee. I'm not sure the time frame. For instance, because while this council probably will expire on October, am I right?
Yes.
Even, I'm not sure if after the agreement, if new council have different view, how to mitigate this effect.
If the new council has a different view, then they withdraw from the committee.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
That's what we just
No
basically,
problem.
Yeah. Because, it's establishing it in principle, really, today, and some basic ground.
Getting it going. But it might
Thank
finish
you.
in October, we don't know. Okay, so moved Phil and seconded Pauline, that's right. I'll put that, those in favour, please. Sorry.
Just say, I mean, I think given that we've only got a few months to the election, really this is neither here nor there, and okay, get it set up. But I think it just raised to me the wider question as well, that we should be thinking about a joint-up approach to our major cycleways as well. So I would just hope that if we can look at some wider issues around transport, because it's not just about public passenger transport. You know, the irony in the region is we're spending a lot on cycleways, but then other partners have got roads being widened with no cycleways. And if you're going from Selwyn or Waimak into the city, you'd actually want a joint up approach to a cycleway. So I just wonder whether, as part of this process, it could be consideration of other things that may actually make sense at a regional level.
You're talking about rail?
Well, possibly rail or whatever, but it does seem that, I mean, that's probably covered in public passenger transport. But for example, the submissions around the changes to taxis and Ubers and all those sorts of things.
We've been reluctant to delegate any of that to a joint committee that involves a whole pile of other people that, we've been keen to keep all that electric vehicle, Uber, all that sort of cool stuff to us.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually involve those. I mean, it could at some stage, but this does not suggest that. And even others are not suggesting that. Can I put the motion? Those in favour? No? Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Okay, the next one, Phil, do you want to chair it? Because I've got I think 2 or 3% ownership of one of the properties there that a lane goes through. So I think I'm financially conflicted. So
this is item 51?
Item 51. And then how would you like to move at the end of that you go into public excluded? And when we go into public excluded, we need to add one supplementary such that we're dealing with an issue related to the new library that's just come to our attention in the last day or so.
So Kane reminds us that, yep, so we'll move that just at the end of this to go into
Yep,
PX.
and then you have 5 minutes to clear the room and we'll come back and do PX. And that way I can go and get the coffee.
What time are you suggesting we come back?
Oh, I think you'll be 2 minutes on this. I'll just go and get coffee and come back.
Oh, so then go into PX straight away, you mean?
Yeah, I'll chair the PX, it's just this one.
Okay. And then lunch, we just want to
We're having about lunch, really.
Well, I'm thinking PX will take 7 minutes.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
So do we do
prayer.
Rest writing it down. You bugger.
Okay.
Okay, you're in charge, mate.
Okay, look, it's good that Michael's here, perhaps to speak, answer any specific questions around the report. The Infrastructure, Transport, Environment Committee certainly considered this, and you'll be aware from the report that it has been a Sarah-led project, but that council staff have been working closely with Sarah staff to achieve what's been described for around the South Frame area. Now there was an additional map had been sent to us too, just so people are clear about the geography of this little part of the street. But I'm sure that Michael will answer any questions that councillors have.
Can I ask a question? Is it a question?
Yeah, questions?
Just for
I was happy to move it.
Oh, thank you. So it's
just
been
for
moved.
clarification though, because Sarah's controlling this work, paying for it.
Yes.
But are they working under the Streets and Spaces design guide that we had in and looking at things like exciting lighting and things like that?
They are. It's all consistent with that streets and public places. Yes.
Right, and I see that there'll be an SPC, a consultative process. So are we paying for that, or are we running that? Or?
We are running it, and they will reimburse us for the costs.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Cool. I'll second it.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions around the report, Yanni?
I know that there were a number of access issues that were raised, so people generally supported it, but there were some local access issues in terms of service vehicles. Have all of those kind of been resolved?
Yes, they have. The consultation that went out, we've put a summary together, and that's come back through Sarah to the ITE committee. But one of the examples, there was an issue with the new businesses that wanted some more access with goods services. So we've managed to actually, since the ITE meeting and this meeting, put in 1 or 2 tweaks into the resolutions that reflect that we can get good services now onto the eastern part of Ash Street to fit in. Certainly, also emergency services, as I mentioned, they've been happy with the sweep paths that we've used and also the dimensions to allow for the fire services. So those were the only access issues that were raised. So everyone seems to be happy with what's going ahead.
The other question I had was just in terms of timing of the work. Given that there's still quite a lot of construction happening in this area, is the timing so that the construction's finished before it goes in, or is it going in ahead of the construction being finalised?
Good question. It's going in alongside the construction, and the timing for the timeframes to have it produced and completed is very tight to fit in with the business openings there. So its schedule is quite coordinated.
Right. So, but we're not going to see any damage to the network that's been proposed from construction that's not finished or yet to occur in this area?
We'd expect that if there was any later damage that's related around the time when the construction's taking place, that we would expect Sarah to pick that up. However, it could be a year's time from now, you may get someone going in, and generally that developer then would have to be responsible for any damage they did to the services. On the plus side, they're actually going a little bit further with things like the end of Ash Street. They're actually picking up some of the work on Madras Street for us to improve those exits as well, which is at no cost to the ratepayer. So
That's great.
they are working alongside quite well.
That's good. Thanks, Michael. And Fiona, any further questions? We're all good with it. That's great. Just, Michael, for clarity, so following the committee's recommendations, which was to correct any minor errors, I see on page 102 some additional some additions, and so they're included in what we'll decide now. That's what
yes.
Yeah. So that includes aspects of Part 12, 16 and 17. That's just a note there. Okay. No further discussion. I'll put those resolutions, those in favour.
Aye.
Anyone against? They're carried. Thank you very much, Michael, your team, and I see Tim here too. Thank you very much for yourself, Rain.
Thanks, Phil. So there's nothing further in the open part of the agenda, is there, Megan? Haven't missed anything? Okay. So I'd like to invite Paul Silk and Bob Lynham to remain after the public have been excluded, and I'd like to move that the council now moves into public exclusion.
And there's a supplementary